The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org.
I am Earl from G3 Cannabis Therapy Network, and you are tuning into Kicking It with Komorn, where we take a new topic every month based upon what you want to learn about legality and cannabis in Michigan. Hi, I'm Earl Carruthers. I have been a client of Michael Komorn's, and if you are with an attorney that you don't feel comfortable with, I do want to let you know that there are good attorneys out there. I personally went through quite a few different attorneys before I came Komorn. I could save you some time and some pain. Komorn is truly a loving and kind-hearted attorney and passionate about the law, and he won't just make you take a plea. He will definitely see all the options and let you make a good choice from there. But if you do need a new attorney, or if you're looking for a good attorney to start off with, check out Komorn. Hi, I'm Earl, and want to just let you know, I know how it is to trying to go through and find an attorney. It's kind of sometimes it's just a shot in the dark. You don't know. You don't trust them. You're not sure how they're going to fight your case if you're just another number. But I do want to reach out and let you know that Komorn definitely is a solid attorney. He leads with passion, with care, and he doesn't just lay down. And he doesn't just let you take a plea. Doesn't let you take a plea. He is there for you all the way. He'll give you all the options. And if you need a fighter, he's there for you.
And now back to more Planet Greens.
I want to wait for the applause.
All right, we're ready.
All right.
We have launched.
Welcome, Planet Green Trees.
We've launched.
Episode number 478. Today's date is August 20th, 2020.
20th of August.
My name is Michael Komorn, your host of Planet Green Trees and of Komorn Law PLC. We're calling tonight's show, I Guess This Must Be the Place. And before we do our normal introductions and tease of the topics, I do want to bring to everyone's attention, we're very excited, and I want to thank my good friend, and I usually refer to him as my good friend. I'm not just calling him my good friend because of this, but Barrister Alan Peisner interacted with the Michigan Supreme Court Chief Justice and Director of the, with the Chief Justice first, not Alyssa McCormick, but Mary McCormick,
Bridget Mary
McCormick of the Michigan Supreme Court. The Chief Justice will be joining us next week.
Excellent.
Next week, that would be August. Calendar says, what's there? Just kidding.
August 27th.
August 27th?
And that's McCormack.
McCormack.
Not Nick.
Right.
Right, Allie?
The Irish can be a little ornery about such things, Jim.
Stubborn.
I know this because I may have a little Irish in me.
There you go. And also we have the, we have the director of the MRA, is that right?
Yes.
He'll be joining
on the
us.
same show next
Same show. Super packed, and that would be next week also, August
Hopefully we can run on time,
27th.
Yeah, we'll see.
And to our listeners, we encourage you if you have questions that want to be asked, we'd be happy to field them and ask when appropriate. That would be both for the Supreme Court Justice and the Director of the MRA. There was some limitations, Alan, if I'm not mistaken, about the question topics for the Supreme Court Justice. Is that right?
Yes. She is not an expert on medical marijuana. I would prefer not addressing that topic. She's going to address the topics of the courts and the problems that the coronavirus has put on the courts.
That's a good topic.
Yeah.
And
It's a good perspective.
And we appreciate her being candid with us, and we definitely appreciate her
because we see a
entertaining
side of it, so that's another side of it. So it'd be good to hear about it.
She's coming on, which is going to be great.
She also offered an opinion, or wrote a letter I want to ask her about regarding the state bar examination this year, and it's another good topic. But also the director of the MRA. So any questions about licensing or the direction of the department may be of interest, and I'm certain we'll be able to come to an answer of whether the MRA intends to lift the acceptance of recreational applications for those that don't have a medical license, MMFLA.
You may hear it here first on Planet Green Trees. Who knows?
I bet you do.
It's good information to want to find out. And any other rumors that are floating around, we will try to get to the bottom of. If anyone wants to create some rumors, please let us know, and we'll be happy to.
We'll definitely get ready. We're going to get right on that. We've got a workshop going next Tuesday. So anybody that's wanting to
workshop
attend,
for rumors.
Rumors workshop.
Yeah,
okay.
It's where we get together and figure out how to stir the shit pot in the most efficient way possible.
To show,
I became an expert in this arena when I worked at the police department.
to show that I can remain in place and on time, let me go to now the introductions after we've now made our point of our great show we have next week. But for this week, the entertainment.
This week we have an even better show.
We do, and to help us do that, we've got our super crew, starting with the quiet one in the blue corner, Tommy and Justin from the bunker,
The bunker.
The Bunker Boys.
The bunker boys. Moving around the room in no particular order, we've got Jim the Powers. Jim, thanks for being here today.
Yeah.
Jimmy the Papa,
Founder of Michigan Parents for Compassion.
Good evening, everybody. It's good to be here. It's been a really crazy week. I've got a few things I want to talk about this week. We've got a couple interesting races coming up, and it's my understanding that we're going to have a wonderful guest on here shortly. So I don't want to steal Michael's thunder, so I'll let him announce that. But it's needless to say, it's going to be a great show. And looking forward to it.
Really.
Jimmy, a lot of pressure on you to make sure that it happens. Moving around the room, we have from the elevation station, and the reason they have these cards, Planet Green Trees TV, correspondent, entertainment, news, very, very effective with the microphone in her hand. Please welcome Amanda Joslin.
Well, thank you, Michael. I appreciate that introduction, and thanks for tuning in, and we've got a great show ahead.
No, we appreciate it because you've been doing a lot of extra work and a lot of effort in some of the
Thank
reviews
you so
and
much.
stuff, and I can't thank you enough. Also, I'll thank again Alan Peisner, my good friend, even though I haven't gotten to him yet, but his involvement, and only because of his involvement is why we have such an exciting show scheduled for next week. And but we'll get to that more in a second. Steve Miller, many of you know him from his tours and across the America, 70s. Fly Like an Eagle. Great library of music. Catalog is unbelievable.
Punk rock pub tour of Flint, no doubt.
Retired police officer from Ken in the core, sort of like the body here at Komorn Law. Please welcome Steve Miller.
Good way to look at it.
All right, thank you for that introduction. Looking forward to tonight's show, and especially my news segment later on. I got a couple of good articles that are relevant to refer to, and
Very relevant
and
articles.
fun.
They're fun.
That's going to be an element in my
Relevant
news.
and
Hope
fun.
everybody has a sense
Relevant
of humor
and fun.
tonight.
You know, for my comfort in all this, let me just say the following. Steve, I'm excited to hear this segment, and I think we should all be open-minded to all the discussion and discourse. Before we go on, let me say this. The opinions and comments expressed in the host, guest, commentators, post articles may or may not represent the actual opinion or thoughts of the Komorn Law firm and or its associates. The thoughts and conversations that occur during this broadcast are an attempt to bring humor and parody to an otherwise non-comical scenario. Although some conversations and guests may state facts, academic impediments, and scientific theorems, one should consult an attorney or expert in the relevant field of query. Steve, go at
Did you
whatever you
do
want.
that just all on my account?
No, I think every time we introduce you, I'm going to read that afterwards. Just kidding.
Was that created all because
Got hit with the disclaimer.
No, I just
man.
said that I feel much comfortable with you going to town on whatever you want to talk about.
All
I've
right.
laid out my
It's
disclaimer.
better that way.
All right, actually good. I feel free rein now. I feel like you just unhooked the leash,
Yeah.
and
Is
off
that ready to
I
rock?
can go at
I do
any
reserve.
point.
I do reserve the right to reread the disclaimer at certain points when,
Yes, you may need to.
when I may feel it's
As
necessary.
appropriate.
What do you think, Shiler? Do you think that'll qualify for immunity?
Nothing matters.
Nothing matters.
And with that said, in the optimism of a shining star,
Of a donkey named Eeyore.
also oddly proclaimed not narcissist, he's a
Nihilist.
nihilist. And our favorite Federalist. Please welcome Charlie Engel.
I don't think I ever said those. Those have been cast upon me.
Shiler. Shiler, I have.
I know.
That's how it goes.
I know,
We
and
don't
I-
get to choose. It chooses us.
Shiler, I have a brand new set of clippers at home, hair
Oh.
Hold on,
clippers.
leave him alone. Leave
We
him alone.
can we
I
can
really
shave you up just
trying
fine.
to I'm trying to live up to our governor's orders.
Yeah.
Let's
yeah.
see.
Well,
Yeah.
good,
And
good.
what are Her Majesty's orders these days?
Hold on. You know, I think Shiler, while he doesn't want to be cast with these titles and whatnot, he's clearly making a new statement of some kind of transformation. We'll have to hear more about that later on.
Okay.
Maybe
Intriguing.
politically.
Intriguing.
Excellent.
It may be very optimistic and nihilistic at the same time.
Wow.
It's not
That'll
possible.
be quite the spectacle.
I can't wait.
That's almost like Camus' absurdism pitch. But anyway,
That's
moving
right.
on.
All right, so
Did he just say QAnon? Or moving on?
Moving on.
Alan Peisner is here wearing a great sweatshirt and dressed outstandingly. He, of course, is responsible for, again, on 8/27, next Thursday, Judge Mary McCormick will be joining us from the Michigan Supreme Court, and, of course, Andrew Brisboe. I want to thank Alan Peisner for all his hard work and loyalty to Komorn Law as a friend, ally, and of counsel.
Of counsel.
Wolf Council.
It's a pleasure to be here, Michael. Thank you for that very nice introduction. I want to thank all our guests here for listening to the Planet Green Tree spaceship as we fly overhead. I hope our holding tank is secured this week. If not,
It is
well,
not.
No,
they'll shoot
we
you.
are off the rails.
All right. Anyway,
Before
it's
we
important
even
to remember
started.
that this Planet Green Tree spaceship is being sponsored by ComornLaw.com. If you have any medical marijuana or criminal defense problems, the place to call is ComornLaw.com, and their 800 number is 800-656-3557.
And we could
Excellent.
really use the money for a new holding tank.
And Alyssa McCormick,
one.
superstar lawyer at Komorn Law, is here.
Yes.
Although she made it clear that she wanted to read the entire transcripts of this outrageous case that
And we
we're
just
involved
left
in.
her alone all day.
But here she is.
Read up,
she
Allie.
can't stay away. Once you kind of get it, I understand. This is that's what I said the first time, and now it's like 499 episodes. Where are we at? I'm just kidding. Please welcome Alyssa McCormick.
No, I did finish the transcript.
Holy
so-
shit, she finished it.
I know, a total of 579 people.
2 days.
Now she'll be up all night summarizing it.
2 days of hearings, and at the end of it, the judge got recused.
Oh.
Yeah. So.
Well, that was a waste of time.
Wow.
Uh-huh. It's pretty wild.
Good
And I would say this, I think I counted up, what do we have? It's literally, I mean, at least 6 marijuana felony cases that still exist, maybe 7. And I mean, it's
That's weird.
weird. I mean, who would have thought,
Weird.
right?
Right.
How could this be going
Huh. You'd
How
think that
many
would
years
happen
has it
if it
How
wasn't
many
Schedule
years
1.
were they
on?
about?
This one
Year?
is almost as, and that includes the disposal of the Darryl Berry case. I don't even count that one as still going on anymore, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But I just think, you know, the transcripts are written from 2017, I think. There's been
Yeah,
a,
that was October 5th.
Yeah.
No, October 2013.
yeah. So the
So
the
things
date
that
of
should have been dropped.
the date of the incident is 2013. We argued about it in 2017. The judge, you know, he was like I don't know, it had delay, and then the judge finally recused herself, and now we've been kicked around from different judges, and here we go. So we're getting into the some of the last stand here.
Section 8.
And there's
Section 8.
but
It's one of my favorite sections, Steve.
it's a lot of the same old stuff, and makes you want to say that's why they're rioting in the streets.
Oh,
So
let's go. Put on the gloves. Let's
thank
go.
everyone for listening. These are the topics we're going to be talking about tonight. We have as our guest tonight Darryl Berry, who's a great friend of the show and of Komorn Law.
Darryl.
and of Michael Komorn.
Darryl Berry.
He would be one of those people that I've encountered over the years who, by virtue of circumstance and government insanity, we became trench buddies, experienced and fought through battles of, where things were piled high against us, and it was just him and I against the almighty state, and we recently resolved the case, and we've been wanting to get Darryl on just because he's a fun guy, but also because he espouses principles and that are not always, at least they're not always consistent with many of the people on the show. And we wanted to have an alternative voice for discussion, debate, and discourse. None of discourse.
This probably, I don't know if this will surprise you or not, but Darryl and I probably talked for about an hour on the phone last night about stuff.
Oh, God.
Steve said Darryl promised he's going to keep it between the rails.
Yes, he did. He did say that.
And we're also excited
No
to
worries. We
have
are
on
excited to have him.
Charmie Gholson, who is a longtime friend and founder of Michigan Moms United, and so much more. You can't say enough about Charmie. She's our sister in arms, and we've confirmed she'll be calling in, right?
I don't know.
Okay.
TBD.
Okay. All right, excellent.
But hopefully, we'll see.
So our topics tonight...
Justin, look out for Charmie. There.
Yes, we could
she
text
shows
her.
up to let us know.
I'll text her.
Or Jamie
Texted,
So I may rant a little bit, but the topics we are going to be discussing tonight is, number one, how an endocannabinoid deficiency
Ding, ding.
the endocannabinoid system, naturally occurring in the human body, and the influence of cannabis, cannabinoids, cannabis, and the cannabinoids from the plant that maybe impact the chemicals in the brain and body for health, and what role they play in that. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. For reasons that are obvious, this has made it to the forefront. Trump voices concerns that putting marijuana on the ballot makes Republicans lose. It's a good topic.
It sure does.
You're probably right.
Stingray surveillance, is it legal?
That old Stingray.
Yeah, it'll sting your Fourth Amendment rights right out.
And
Toilet
what about
there.
the hailstorm as well? Maybe we can pepper in the hailstorm.
Pepper it in.
Constitutional rights behind them snatching info. There's a couple court cases on there.
Well,
I know they can do it, but just...
We have Alan here to help us explain the Stingray surveillance issues. We've got the topic of blockchain voting. Is it in the new future?
Good thing Shiloh's here.
Where's Shiler?
Yeah,
Shiler, where'd you go?
Shiler, can you
Shiler,
can you discuss this with any significance?
Well, hold on. We're not asking Shiler to discuss currency, but instead the technology
Yes, exactly.
that's part of this, and he may
Yes.
be able to.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
He's redefining what we can impose upon him as he may not accept that.
He's moving the goalposts.
And as long as he remains on mute, we can say whatever we want. Oh, here he is. He had the audacity.
I had to just get water.
Oh.
Okay.
They're
Thank God.
outside. Charmie said they're outside.
Okay.
They are?
Yeah.
Oh, here. Oh,
Her
wow.
and Daryl.
All right, let me go
I'm
get
not
them.
sure.
Oh,
Okay.
maybe
She
they're
just
live.
texted me and said they're
Excellent. Wow, that's
outside.
amazing.
Maybe they're
Yeah.
live.
Police reform plan. What is the answer? And of course, as he steps out to help out here, the real news with Esteban. If we get to that, if
Estebano.
we still are talking to each other by the end of the night. Just kidding. So what do we take a break? Because I think we have some people coming in to join us, right?
We're going to go to break.
Is that something we can do?
We're going to go to break.
Everyone okay with that?
Recess.
All right.
Adjust.
You're listening to Planet Green Trees, and we're going to break.
Over and out.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org.
I am Earl from G3 Cannabis Therapy Network, and you are watching Planet Green Trees, the original and #1 podcast in Michigan for all things cannabis and legal news.
Dr. Bud Green here. Welcome to our
Joslin here with the Amanda Report, powered by Komorn Law and aired on Planet Green Trees TV. Alright, picture this if you will. You go to your local provisioning center or you just hook up with your caregiver and you have a nice big old sack of Mary Jane. So you're very excited, you get home, you get it all out, you start getting in there, getting your hands dirty. And then what you do is you're left with the stem. So today we're going to talk about what do we do with all of those leftover stems. Sticks and stems are inevitable. You can have a beautiful bag of ganja and you're still going to be left with some stems. So every part of the cannabis plant can be used for something. That's why it's such a great little gift to us all. And so there are three main uses that we can collect and use stems for later. The first reason would be to make it into some canna butter. The second reason is we could use it to infuse into some topicals. And then the last would be some cannabis tea. You should absolutely not smoke your stems. Not only will it not get you high, but also, you guys, it's going to give you a monster headache, and it's probably going to tear up your throat and make you cough a great deal. So, can you smoke stems? I guess you could, but please don't. So the name of the game is to reduce, reuse, and recycle. So start saving those stems. What kinds of things have you done with your stems? Give us a comment below. This is Amanda Joslin with the Amanda Report, powered by Komorn Law, aired on Planet Green Trees, signing out.
We're going on an adventure, guys.
I'm gonna tuck my feet on.
Bill Schuette led the charge against medical marijuana, even after the will of the voters was decided and the support was enormous. He still continued to fight against the will of the voters, keeping patients from the medicine that they need. So I think it's important that we all speak up on what we think about this initiative. But when the voters have their say, their will must stand.
Here's Michael Komorn for Planet Green Trees.
All right, we're back. Thanks for staying with us. Planet Green Trees, episode number 478. We're calling it This Must Be the Place. And
must be.
Amongst the topics here, I mean, I know we've been joined by Razor Ray, guitar aficionado.
Razor Ray.
Longtime family of the community. And Charmie Gholson is here as well. She's indulging in what can only be described as the best spread.
Absolutely.
For podcasts. That's all. I mean,
we don't do it any other way.
Whether you like the show or not, at least we got that going.
No other way.
All right.
You don't have to like the show, but you have to like the spread.
Yeah, you got to have respect for the spread.
Best spread on the pod. Like if we have Detroit area podcast awards eventually,
best spread goes.
I
to
expect
PGT.
that I will win best spread in a podcast.
Oh, hands down.
Best podcast spread.
Hands down.
100%.
Mm-hmm. That's all I care about.
Correct.
It's all yours, Michael.
Very good. So,
yes.
You want to start on this? We got,
let's start. I mean,
let's pile in there.
I mean, let's talk about the Stingray surveillance just for fun.
All right.
Because that's a good one. So there's
just for fun.
So I'll set the playing field here, and then we can kind of discuss it. There is a device that certain agencies, federal agencies, local agencies, just agencies that we're all familiar with, have possession of, called a Stingray. And this Stingray is able to emulate a cell phone tower. And what they're able to do, in essence, is have your cell phone connect to it and then relay the connection to the actual cellular network. And what this allows for is the interception of data, whether that be voice data or computer data or any other type of data. The bits and bytes that are going over the line, that they can be potentially intercepted. And there's a lot of discussion on the constitutionality of a device like this. So, knowing that agencies that we're all familiar with have this device.
Right here locally, I think, don't they?
I would ask this panel of experts, as well as our audience, whether we feel that this is constitutional and a device potentially that could be used without a warrant.
I'd like to hear Michael's take on this.
Just if I could clarify, this device is like something that cuts the cable for your communications. If you have an internet cable, it's like cuts the cable and sits in between you and the internet company. So it's getting all your communications from your cell phone without a warrant, and that's the most concerning thing.
So
the other,
go ahead.
Oh, the other thing is try to find any information on the Stingray. If you go on Google, you won't be able to find a manual. You'll be able to find some blogs on it. But if you try to go to the manufacturers or get any specifics on it, you're not going to get it unless you're police, unless they can verify you're from the police.
I would think at a minimum you need a warrant.
Well, there's this idea, and Michael probably knows better, but that it's radio waves. It's out in the public domain.
Here's the question.
Yeah.
Is there an expectation of privacy? That's number one.
Right.
Because I think I think there's some cases back and forth, ultimately resulting in you have to have a warrant to check someone's phone. You can't force them to give a code, although I think this may be transitioning. I thought I saw another case contrary, that a password, known password is not testimonial. By the way, send Jeff Frazier. Jeff Frazier.
The link.
Yeah. It's not testimonial, but nevertheless, the first analysis usually on these kind of things is, do you have a right to privacy? The second, of course, would be, is it a government intrusion? I think someone else stealing your data, you don't have any government interest there. And you make a good point, because I think many of the, like it's almost like the idea of the trash can, Jim, that once you put your trash on the street, it no longer is in a private area. It's for anyone to kind of take.
It's in the public domain.
Correct. And I think, by way of definition, I'm not suggesting that it should be this way, but by definition, the data floating in between there is out there. And further, I would say, I don't know that anyone has a right to prevent third-party subpoenas for, like someone, like you don't have a right to privacy of the records that Verizon keeps of yours.
Yeah, but that's in conflict with rulings that have been made in favor of corporations. I remember, 15 years ago, that when DirecTV was first coming up, that you could buy these devices that would allow you to basically decode their satellite signal and get DirecTV for free. And there was a tremendous amount of litigation. They were suing people for doing this, and they were winning. So much so that they had everybody bent over a barrel, and they would raid these places that manufacture these devices, and they just start going down the list and suing everybody. So I think that there's some conflict there as far as
it can be theft.
Right there, it's theft.
Right
here, it's okay because it's in the air. Like this was in the air too,
like
entering my home.
What if I am doing some banking on my cell phone?
Right, is that in the air?
I mean, that's in
They
the
get
air.
those records.
Does that give Amanda then the right to my bank stuff because it's in the air?
Maybe.
There's a lot of consent
Imagine
unknowingly
the mess that would be.
to what you would think would not be happening, right? I mean, by virtue of having the phone and the convenience of it, I think we're all subject to being tracked. I mean, if you ever listen to these like crime shows where, you know, someone goes on the run, the second they turn their phone on, bam, it's over. Like they got them, you know what I mean? So...
Yeah, when you go on the run, you got to ditch the phone forever. I hate to tell you.
But we all most of us realize that we're being tracked. But we all accept that as you said,
As
because of the
an exchange
convenience.
For the convenience for the technology.
But what I don't accept is that there isn't. If I send a message,
tracking somebody because of the need to put a connection to a cell phone tower, which can inevitably be tracked, is something different than submitting your information or having your information pulled out of your phone.
Yes.
There's a different,
especially if there's a communication between you and I, and Michael, you as my attorney, that communication is protected.
100%.
And
although they would say this, if they gathered that information, they would not use that against you.
Well,
it's
I
privilege.
understand, but they shouldn't have even
I know,
have a right to
I
it.
know, I know. And it's based on a false premise. I think that by virtue of the phone, if there is any legitimate consent as to what you're doing, it's certainly logging into, per Verizon or whoever your service carrier is, you know, a methodology associated with the towers and either, you know, other signals.
But get this. So you know what happens if Steve breaks into that signal and intercepts my communication? You know what that?
It's different.
It's unauthorized use of a computer.
Sure, but I'm saying to you this:
20-year felony.
They're not breaking into the Verizon line, though. What they're doing is sending out a signal that is pretending to be like a tower. It's grabbing the signal, the Bluetooth or whatever what is it?
It's the LTE signal.
Right. The Wi-Fi. Right. What is the card? It's actually the phone signal. Cellular signal. Right. It's not even Wi-Fi. It's cellular.
No,
right?
It's cellular. It's a completely different band.
And they instead of the connection to the tower, the signal that for the Stingray serves as a similar type of.
Yeah. The phone can't differentiate it, and
Correct.
what the phone is programmed to do is go to the strongest and probably the nearest tower, but the one with the strongest signal, because obviously you want the better quality from wherever you physically are. And if someone parks one of these trucks outside of your house, well, where do you think the phone's going to connect to?
I remember a client telling me a story that immediately before the raid at his house, he was on his computer and a pop-up of joining a network, a new network out of nowhere came onto his as a notification because the police had pulled in front of his house and they were getting into his signal or something. So it was really like he knew it was coming. Like their whole thing was probably to be covert about it, but in fact they actually broadcast what was happening. I mean, and it was totally bizarre. Now here's an interesting point about this is that we know about this in limited forms, and under no circumstances are law enforcement disclosing this information as part of traditional discovery, which is rather, what it does is if it's being used and it's not being disclosed, it means then that whatever is being disclosed is the source of the cause or probable cause or development of some kind of things in the investigation. Have to provide a falsity of some kind that gets you to that particular, if that's the initiation or in any way that it's used. So to use it, because it's not being disclosed. I mean, this particular case, it was interesting because, this was this case, U.S. versus Prince Jones, challenge the police warrants use of Stingray cell phone tracker. Ultimately, they use a device.
I hate that name. This is not a cell phone tracker. It is not tracking you. It is intercepting your communications. It is tapping your line.
As the case reads here, the device known as Cell Site Simulator, or Stingray, tracks phones by mimicking cell towers, forcing phones in the area into broadcasting their identifying information. In this case, 2013 Metropolitan Police Department, they got a lot of good stuff happening for them lately, don't they? Just kidding. Use a Stingray to.
Joke? That's a joke.
Well, it's
Okay.
right. Okay. Use a Stingray to track a suspect's cell phone while investigating several sexual assaults and robberies, but officers did not obtain a warrant or any other court order before using the device. In other words, they were tracking someone without getting via their phone using Stingray.
You should get the warrants.
Police were able to precisely locate the suspect, Prince Jones, sitting in his parked car on a busy street. And the defense challenged Stingray's use before trial. The lower court found even if the police actions violate. I love this. This is, one of the constant. This is why, in response to a lot of these factors are. This is why they're rioting the streets. This would be another example of it. The lower court found that even if the police actions violated the Fourth Amendment, which should be enough, Dianu, the evidence found in the car could still be used under the inevitable discovery doctrine. What the fuck is that? That's like the good faith exception or the inventory search of the vehicle. There's like 19 different. They've come with all these exceptions. Oh, you violated the Fourth Amendment. Okay.
Yeah, they were going to get it anyway.
Yeah. So in other words, they were going to seize the phone.
No, that's not what they were saying.
Well,
subpoena the information from the cell phone carrier, because they would have had the exact same information as Stingray.
It makes no sense. But they found him.
Great sense. It's a great argument.
No, they found him where he is. They tracked him.
Yep.
They may be able to get that information afterwards. The information they had at the time.
It would have been worthless at that point. Yeah, I get it.
At the time they had it, is the way they were able to use and arrest him and find him. Yeah. So they, to say that we would have figured out later and been able to track him for where he was before.
That's right.
There's no way they can find out this exact location.
That's a good argument.
But for that.
Yeah.
Anyways, so this is now moving on up the appeals court and
shit show ladder.
Did you say the shit show ladder?
That's exactly what I said. This absolute disregard for our constitutional rights.
Wait, here's another case from May 22nd.
My God. It's just one after the other. Oh, there used to be a time when you had to go get a warrant to do this.
Jim has the best outrageous indignation.
It's ridiculous.
So one of the
Jim is totally right. They should. I mean, I sat there and said,
appreciate it.
You should get the warrant. I mean, in that situation, I would have gotten the warrants.
Here's the other case of relevance for this is the ACLU versus CBP FOIA case for CBP and ICE records related to the use of cell site simulator technology. So this is like an appeal of the government refusing to give the information related to these tracking devices that they're using to get citizens. And so that's the point I'm making, is that it is clearly a source that they're using for investigative purposes. And in this case here represents that they are refusing to give the information and tell people, defendants turn over Brady material, essentially, of how they got to the particular defendant. So they're not telling that. In order to avoid that, how did we find the person or the thing that we were tracking? We're not going to tell you. So some explanations to be given. To just void that out probably doesn't happen. Instead, some other falsity has to be, or some other alternative source of probable cause is created. This is the problem with a lot of this stuff. You can't have both. You can't be secretive about getting information and then use it and refuse to explain how you got information. First of all, was my analysis at all about the issues here accurate?
I'm not knowledgeable enough to speak extensively on this at all. But I thought, for some reason, the last time the Stingray came up, I thought it was held by some other circuit, not our own, that use of the Stingray without a warrant was unconstitutional. So if you're telling me there's a new case that suggests that use of the Stingray without a warrant is constitutional, then I'm behind the times.
Well, this is a case from April 12, 2017. And
Out of the D.C. circuit,
correct.
Right? Yeah, they ruled that it was unconstitutional, I thought.
In that case, the evidence still came in, even though it was a Fourth Amendment violation because of inevitable discovery, which is,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the facts. I mean, we know how courts can.
What does it matter?
I'm not familiar with the opinion.
No, I know, but okay, but I don't know if you've had any cases. But Alan, please jump in also.
No,
or
all I can say is the use of the Stingray is like an open network, essentially, where it can take in anything that's on, and it's what they do with the data that they get. And since we're just talking about it broadly, your phone is becoming more and more of a public space, and only things that are encrypted you have any expectation, if you're a knowledgeable person, of privacy.
If you're a knowledgeable person, there is absolutely an expectation of privacy. I mean, you and I both know that it's a misguided expectation, Schuyler, but certainly an expectation of privacy from the provider or from the police.
Look, Jim, we live on the internet now, and I don't know if our courts are ready to make that determination that we have on. I'm sorry.
We're still going?
Yeah, we're still going.
Sorry, keep going, Schuyler, please. I like that topic. Keep going.
I don't know if the courts are ready to make the determination that we have online lives and our videos get shared without our consent.
I understand, but if I'm sending you an email and it's unencrypted, I mean, give me a break, Schuyler.
I understand, but
what about that?
That's like me sending a U.S. mail.
It's not.
It is too.
Unless it's encrypted.
But it's not. But it's
No,
not.
I'm saying so if it's not encrypted, Jim, what are you saying? You have no expectation that someone else won't snag it?
If you're using an encrypted network that is conceived for the purposes of privacy, then I would think that there is an expectation. And I'm not saying that this is law. I'm just saying that I do think inevitably we're going to get to the point with how things are going. An email is very different than something you receive in the mail. You know that it can be forwarded. It's just germane to our existence these days.
Yeah, but I could forward a piece of mail that I get. I could make copies of it.
I'm just kind of taking a devil's advocate point of view.
Yeah, but you're saying there's a false sense of ease by which it happens, which makes it okay or accepted. I disagree with that. I mean, I think.
I understand. The most hilarious thing to me when I started becoming this attorney thing is how lawyers love to put these disclaimers at the bottom of their emails that are just completely out of the 1980s, and it doesn't make sense anymore. And
I'll tell you what. If the expectation needs to be determined as if it is not the default, then let the words of those expectations be written. Wordy, as many as you want.
Wordy.
No limit. No 200-word limit either. I hate that stuff. Oh, just kidding.
Well, I mean, you see what's going on. We're talking about basically the cops just putting out a big signal and collecting a big everyone's data.
By the way, can we at least draw this distinction, because this conversation needs to be understood. We're talking about private individuals interacting and the government having access to those, and whether that would be expected versus somebody, if someone wanted to send it to someone else, that's a different expectation. You know that if you put something in writing and send it to someone, or even if you don't, they can make it look like you did, but it's at least something that you are in some way consenting for someone else to read. Another person, what they want to do with it, but certainly not to the government to come in, and that's really what's going on, right? We know that the Patriot Act and the gathering of data.
And the secret FISA courts, I mean, we all could refresh ourselves that Edward Snowden was dealing with this stuff 16, 15 years ago.
I have a story about that.
We all know that they've been collecting data on people indiscriminately, without warrants, forever.
Yes.
And it's just when they have to use that information against you.
Yep. And they will.
Well, that's what's happening.
Let's not even talk about anything other than recognizing that that's where we're living.
Well, yeah, I think it's just.
You asked for my opinion.
No, it's fine. It's a good topic. I agree with you. I think the dynamics played out with China in the whole, protesting and the different ways in which the United States responded to that. The NBA was like, not against the government. They have too much money vested in the marketplace there, and you saw some really weird political allies aligning with each other. And people, I think one of the owners, was like, we're with the protesters. And then, like, LeBron James came back with, wait, hold on, now he's got to walk back a little bit. Chinese government, they got their, what they were doing, they were suppressing free speech. They were, tear gassing protesters, arresting them. So it's, and of course, all of that stuff that was taking place was clearly being used by the government intercepting phones. They don't have discussions about stingrays, right? You're not probably allowed to talk about that, but
they don't need to. The world they live in. That's
right.
Not the world we live in.
It's not the world we live in. I don't think. I mean, to suggest. So, you guys are talking from an IT perspective of if you want nobody to see your emails, you need to encrypt them. That's what you're saying. But to say, and that may be true.
But what I'm saying is that even if I don't, I have an expectation that if I send you an email, that it will be held in privacy. It is
by the other individual?
No.
From the government.
From the government. Okay, fine. That's all I'm saying. But we know that's not true, right? We know that they're collecting data.
I believe it's a violation of my Fourth Amendment rights for them to collect that data.
Yes, it is.
Well, it's almost like what I said before about if they're like during the wiretapping of the mob when they get on the phone with the lawyer, they'd listen, but they just could not use it.
Oh, I get it.
You
And
see what I'm
that's
saying?
the same bullshit argument they're using with this Stingray, is they're driving it around.
Yep.
And they're saying, it doesn't really fucking matter now, does it? Because I caught you with a fucking pound of cocaine in the back of your car.
Right. It's certainly something we're going to have to... Allie, you got any comments on this? You got any thoughts legally or... Alan? Lawyer?
Just it's kind of scary that they're able to do this. I mean...
It is when you find out that it exists and they're not telling anyone about it. But go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
The other scary thing that I'm worried about is how much information they're getting about our private lives that we'll never know, because the only time we'll ever know about it is if it's used in a prosecution.
The joke is, and I hate to be crude, Alan, but they always suggest that they don't care what type of porn you watch. That's not directed at anyone, and that's like the reoccurring joke.
Right. It's like, what do you have to worry about? Why do you care if we're looking? I hate to say it, but
if you're not doing anything wrong, you don't have anything to worry about. Right?
It's unbelievable.
South Park did a couple really good top. It lasted with everything. They did a couple great episodes. It was like I forgot what country it was, but they created the internet site where you could go to the site and enter someone's name and see their browsing history. You know what I mean? So it was interesting, like some of the couples and the characters, like some of them, like the wife, oh my God, I just watched my husband, I can't believe it. And they're over at the other house. She's like, I'm not going to look at my husband's. I don't care what. It was like there's a really interesting kind of dynamic the way they played it out of who's interested in doing that. From a cultural standpoint, but the government. Go ahead.
That's fiction, but the thing is, that is kind of already happened. I don't know if you guys remember, there was the Twitter hack maybe a month and a half ago, where it's now determined that basically somebody just emailed one of the Twitter admins and got the proper passwords, and he was able to take control of accounts like Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Elon Musk.
Yep.
Well, the thing is, if you're able to do that, you can also see your direct messages.
Oh, wow.
Like, so whoever did that, if they just downloaded that information, has the direct messages like of Elon Musk, who uses Twitter every day, or Donald Trump, who I hope does not direct message people.
But
to me, Shyler, legally speaking, I think it's offensive, but I don't have as much of a problem. I think it's almost guaranteed. I'm sure if people don't think that they're consenting for someone else, some administrator, to be looking at your private messaging, and you think you're doing business, no one else knows about it if they want to on Facebook.
Right,
I think everyone is, all of these accounts, all these social media things, you should have this is some third party some third party playing with your stuff that you've agreed to let them, maybe
the
they're
best
not.
you can do is get them to not disclose it.
Or
That's
not to
it.
sell your information to someone. That's the best you can do. But certainly it's available to anybody.
The people who do not believe in copyrights think that copyright laws are immoral or whatever. They basically say information wants to be free. It will always dissipate, seep out. Everything always gets out.
And look at the state of the music industry right now. Please.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, but look what happened. Those record corporations of our parents' generations are pretty much gone.
And I'm posing the query of, is that good or bad? Is the music world better or worse off from that? That's a good question. What do you think, Ray? Ray Razor here, rock and roll legend in the state of Michigan.
He's definitely an expert.
I'm saying, so you know what I mean? So let me frame it a little bit differently if you're feeling me here. Because of the internet, because of copyright, we went through the whole streaming of music. What was it? Napster, and then these other, and then all the industry, all the music industry had to kind of get these streaming services. They're selling their music. Apple was trying to lead the way. Got all these other ones, Spotify, and I don't know, whatever.
Napster really got Lars Ulrich all really.
Yeah, but there was a lawsuit about that, and even though they got taken out, the copyright issue. Anyway, so there's, and maybe.
Detroit Cup.
But anyway, so the point is that this, of course, watered down the industry for some reason, right? Instead of needing to go into a store and pay $10, $14 for an item that you took home to own, you could all of a sudden get it online. And after you can get it online, you can rip it, sell it, get it, all that. So it's the transfer is like, I'm not advocating that, but it's certainly
easy to bootleg.
I mean, you can. I mean, I don't know. There's not a song that I can't find on YouTube, pretty much. Right. And of the band playing it, if it's not that someone recording the record or like uploading the digital information. So my point is that this has done it's destroyed what was the record industry, which was you had you had abusive artists, of course, but the principles were that they were investing in theoretically bands and let them record albums, and they were in charge of what was getting out. Right. Or if a band got hot, they would be picked up by a new label. So there's that kind of thing, as opposed to now, where that is not what's driving the music we're listening. Now there's so many other sources of music, so many other ways to get that music. It's kind of watered down all of that, and there's not the same kind of album sales, sales of units of music like there was. They report on those things completely differently. It may even be clicks on YouTube, right? All right.
It.
So are we better off today because of this copyright lessening and kind of expansion of music, the forms of music, or are we better off from the way it was when record companies dominated? And there was at least some. I would say there's some opportunity, right? If you had a good couple bands, you could get your foot in the market. You could launch your record company, and that came from talent, right? So there's always that chance. And so, with that being said,
instead of being created in a boardroom.
Right. Keeps the music that comes out now a little bit more honest, a little more integrity, a little more for the artist that's just like not creating music for the idea of like trying to appease a certain. For this whole thing, it was difficult to get your name out there. I mean, you had to hit the road, get the name out, and if you were on that kind of local level, chances are you weren't going to get outside your area. So you needed that record deal to get that exposure. However, it's going to come at a cost of, you're not going to get that great of a return.
Right.
You're going to get screwed, and and we've seen over and over again how the artist got screwed by the record label.
Is there anybody that's ever said they had a good run with the label that they were with? There
was definitely some labels that had had a really good run, but I think
Beatles.
they had to get to a point of like
Yeah.
proving
Yeah.
themselves to like, okay, we could sell so many records and our
Right.
record deal is about expired with you. We can go somewhere else
Sure.
now.
Sure.
You know, and it's at this point now it's just with the internet, you know, anybody, you know, that has really good talent now has the opportunity to get in front of the world.
Sure.
You know,
100%.
there's so many artists that I've been turned on to since this revolution, and
There's
you
also
know.
a lot of garbage.
Right, and you know, but there was always garbage before. You know, there was garbage when the labels were putting out like, oh my God, I can't believe some of this stuff they're releasing. You know, and even with bands that were, like for me, Metallica was a favorite band, and I was like, you know, in that first genre of fans that were listening to from the first record.
Sure.
When they got to that Black album, which is like considered like a huge jumping point for them, and it really was, like it brought them into a total new status. It was also the point where, for a lot of artists or a lot of their fans, stopped buying it.
Sure.
You know.
We had the same discussion. I'd say that compared to the REM discussion of, you know, Monster was Jim's album. If you know their catalog, and I was like an early, you know, like
REM
radio,
fan, yeah, and it was,
radio, you know
it
what
was
I'm
the
saying?
same situation.
Right.
So you always had this situation of
Yeah.
bands kind of like selling out.
Yeah, always.
And you know, and that's going to happen, right? I mean, at some point, I think an artist gets to that point, but because of the situation that it is now, you seem to have a little bit more of a longer shelf life of that artist being a little more authentic.
Yeah.
I think, you know. So yeah, I think it has been a double-edged sword.
So I would agree. Listen, I would agree with you. I think for purposes of the listener, there's so many more opportunities out there to find music. I mean, there's so many bands. I mean, like I found bands that are doing covers of other bands that I like the covers better than the original bands. You know what I'm saying? Just really talented people or different genres that they'll, you know what I mean?
Like those hillbillies that do that AC/DC song, Thunderstruck. My God, that was so awesome. And you know what? There's no way a record label would be behind pushing something like that. There's like no way ACD to, you know, they don't have to
100%.
pay all that, you know, the
Sure.
royalties to ACDC and all this other stuff.
There's a couple. I was playing for you on the break, but they do. They're like funk. They're like a funk theme, and they play all these jams and they rearrange them. They're just really cool. But I'm saying that kind of stuff, you know, and it's new stuff.
Technology puts all the power into the artist's hands.
That too,
'Cause
right?
The artist is able to build their brand independent of having a big deal, and then they're able to market that brand to different outlets, and it's just fundamentally
it's
changes
hard
the game.
to dominate the outlets
It
of where
is.
music's coming from. I mean, they used to.
It is, but I mean,
you know,
you
the
and
record
I
store.
mean, you and I have our kids, man, and they're on YouTube. The market has changed. I
Yeah.
mean, they're engaged with content providers directly with the content provider, and they're kids.
Yeah.
And they're making millions of dollars. I mean, it's absolutely
Yes.
insane.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The tent
Boxford,
guy.
Boxford, baby.
Boxford.
Yeah, box fort guy. I mean,
I built a
Don't bring it up.
Lamborghini out of a box fort. What he really means is he has a YouTube show about box fort, and he bought a Lamborghini with his money from that stupid show.
exactly what happened. And
But,
I'm sure it's true.
You know what? You know what it did. I mean, that's a whole other genre of things we could talk about. But there's a whole group of YouTubers out there that like refuse to grow up. They're like, listen, I'm just going to remain creative and not buy into this crap.
the best
and
of the
play
internet,
kid
man. I
and
love it.
appeal to silliness.
Yeah.
And 6.9 million viewers later, you buy a Lamborghini. I guess is what you do.
It's amazing.
And how wonderful, like Ray said, I mean, it wasn't like this 25 years ago.
No, not at all. There's no way that it would be this way.
No, and that was,
that
I
it
mean,
could be this way.
No, and I remember that was when I was first getting into the internet, and I knew it was going to be big. I didn't realize it was going to be like this.
Explosion.
Yeah.
There are kids that will watch other kids open presents, unboxing. You know, this
That's
unboxing
crazy.
stuff. And they have it for, unboxing the computer. Oh, it looks great. I just bought this new computer.
Yeah.
Here you have installing stuff. There's all that kind of stuff there. But kids will watch other kids taking
Just the
toys out to
collage,
play
right?
with
Anna
it.
loves it.
Yeah.
She'll watch it for hours.
That's awesome.
It's
hours.
Stop. There's a YouTube thing.
There's
Charmie,
hundreds
these
of
kids are-
thousands of
these
them.
kids
Opening.
These kids get
Stop.
millions and millions of views, Charmie.
And then what happens?
Other
Nothing. They just play with the toy.
Yeah, they just get paid.
Listen,
What's that mean, Jim? What does this mean?
Ryan's
Ryan's World.
No, Ryan's Playhouse.
No, it's Ryan's World.
Ryan's Play. date, something, whatever.
Yeah,
This kid's like 7 years
his
old.
name's
The
Ryan.
parents started with just the unboxing. It turned into now they have toys of Ryan. Like for 8 years, their parents were just making
You
video,
go into Target
going
and this kid
crazy.
has his toys there.
He like became he's a sponsor. The kid became sponsored by like Mattel or something. You know what I mean?
Crazy.
And now he's 13. He cares less about the stupid things and the girls. His parents are like, come back, come back.
I think they moved it to his sister or something.
Like,
It's very
seriously,
bizarre.
like he's like
Our
last.
ticket took off.
Right, he's
right.
Time to work with the kid, a younger kid.
That's right. Keep it moving.
But the parents are like children. The parents are like kids, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like they're coming up with funny, stuff to do, and it's there's no takes. They just run that camera. It's like
They're just having a ball. That's how you get paid big. You have fun.
Yeah.
It really is.
I'm
How
saying.
much fun are you having in the courtroom, Michael Komorn? How much fun are you having in the courtroom? I've seen you in there. You look like you're.
It's a
having
different
pretty
kind.
darn
It's a
good-
different kind of
Having
fun.
a
It's
lot
kind
of
of like
fun.
enjoying
not
a
opening presents, that's
fight
for
with
sure.
a pig in mud. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like
but every now and then you.
I'm gonna get him this time. I'm getting in there. No.
But you sidestep him and stick him in the neck, though. I've seen that. I've seen you get those cops on the stand and you ask them over and over again and they lie. They get caught lying. Every time I've been in the courtroom with you, you put a cop on the stand and you ask him questions and he lies.
It's like the thing to
They
do.
do that. They do that
Every time.
Another point where we could say,
Every
and
time.
this is why they're riding in the streets. Okay.
Correct.
Let's see. Charlotte, what are your thoughts on this blockchain?
We gotta go to a break.
Okay, fine. All right, fine. Never mind.
Time for a break.
Charlotte,
And then we'll talk about blockchain. Hey, Jamie.
I love all the organizations.
Look at there's Jamie. Jaime.
oh, good. Jamie's here. I wouldn't feel comfortable talking about the endocannabinoid deficiency syndrome, which I think,
Oh, Will.
Good.
unless
gonna be
Jamie's involved, I'm glad
Yes.
that Lowell is joined from the Michigan CIA.
It does. And we're going to
Sounds
break.
a little
Okay.
sketchy, Jamie.
You're listening to Planet Green.
Did I just out him as a CIA agent?
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org.
Hey everyone, it's Amanda Joslin from the Planet Green Trees, and I'm here with the Amanda Report. We're going to be discussing a little bit about edibles and dosage. It seems to be kind of a hot topic, and especially during today, we can't necessarily go into the dispensaries to ask questions. And if you're a new patient, it's always nice to get an understanding of how much to take, because they taste delicious, and sometimes it's very difficult to tell how much medicine you're getting because it doesn't taste like medicine. It tastes like candy or brownies or lozenges, lollipops. We see all kinds of different sour gummy bears and things like that. A lot of different choices when it comes to edibles. In addition to those things, you can also dive into the area of Rick Simpson oil, or RSO as it's commonly known. So to start out though, we'll get some basic information of like what the milligram dosages are gonna be for a baseline for folks to start at, and then what to do and look for when you're in the dispensary to get that best product. So one of the important things to remember is that edible dosage is going to vary greatly based upon the individual user. You're going to have several different people maybe in a line, and each of them are given a 100 milligram gummy bear, and if each of them eat it, they're all going to have very different experiences based upon their metabolism, based on medications that they're currently taking, based on their own just hormones and their own body balance. And a lot of different factors go into it. So when we're talking about dosing, it's really important to consider all factors. If you're new to cannabis, your tolerance hasn't really built up that much, then you're going to want to take a low dosage and work your way up. Edibles take approximately 35, 45, sometimes an hour to kick in. So don't be fooled and eat a corner of an edible and think that it's not going to work and then just eat the rest of it, because you might wake up and it's going to be 2 days from now. And unless you are really looking for a good sleep, maybe you don't want to sleep for 2 days. So the good news, no one has ever died from the use of cannabis in the documented history. So that we can be sure of. You're not going to die. But if you eat too much, you might not feel as good as you could. And considering that the edible dosage is going to be different for each person, the thing to keep in mind is that the CBD ratio or the THC ratio, that's going to make a little bit of a difference as well. But you can find edibles typically that will go anywhere from a 10 milligram dosage all the way up to a 5,000 milligrams, depending on where you get it and whether you're recreational versus medical. On a side note, folks that have access to the medical marijuana get access to an additional content of THC. Medical marijuana patients sometimes require a higher dosage of THC in the milligrams. So by having your medical marijuana card, you get access to a higher milligram dosage edible as opposed to a recreational patient. But moving on here, we usually recommend that people start out anywhere between 15 milligrams to 25 milligrams to get the best effect. And again, that's a slow dosage start out. But if you're really concerned about it, then you may want to start out at about a 10 milligram to 5 milligram dosage and work your way up from there. Folks can start out with just a nibble, wait for 30 to 45 minutes, and then take a little bit more if you don't feel the effect. The thing to keep in mind is if you redose, don't eat a massive amount because you've already eaten some. So if you eat a massive amount, then you're going to put yourself potentially over what you wanted to be. So, and the only option you have at that point is to eat a bunch of CBD or ride it out, your choice. So what happens, I guess, if we eat too many edibles? Well, that's a question, valid question, important question, and we're going to talk about that. So some of the things that could happen as a result of eating too many edibles is going to be an increased heart rate. You're going to feel a little bit uncomfortable, kind of potentially like you're, getting a little nervous and stuff. Sometimes people just completely fall asleep and they're just going to sleep it off. And other folks will raid the refrigerator. One thing we can guarantee, going back to what we said earlier, is nobody is going to run the risk of overdosing and it be a fatal overdose. Overdosing on THC is, the remedy is a large pizza with pepperoni, okay? So you're not gonna have to worry about that. But I definitely, for new users, would not recommend trying out a new product or dosing for the first couple of times if you're about to go into a motor vehicle or operating heavy machinery or something like that. The reason I say that is just because some of the effects of these edibles could be more of like a euphoric feeling. And although that is what we like to have, we don't like to have that if we have several people's lives in our hands, or if it's a sensitive situation like you're doing brain surgery. So the effects from edibles are nice, because they last for a very long time as opposed to smoking. Some people like to do both. When you smoke it, you get the immediate relief. When you eat it, the effects take a little bit longer to kick in. Once they do, however, that effect will take place for about 4 to 6 hours as opposed to smoking it. When you smoke it, generally speaking, about an hour and a half to 2 hours is what the length of that medicine will take you. So, and until you have to redose. So you're getting a longer range of time and relief from edibles. They also tend to treat more chronic conditions a little more effectively. For instance, body pain, chronic headaches, things like that will be best treated sometimes with edibles. Again, it goes back to everybody's individual makeup, but for the most part, those are the guidelines. The other thing I wanted to just quickly touch on is what it looks like for these 10 milligram dosage, 50 milligram dosages, 100 milligram dosages. What does that look like when we have an edible? Because that seems to be where some people are steered wrong, because it doesn't look like you're getting that much. So what I brought here is an edible that is 100 milligram edible, picked up by our local dispensary, provisioning center, licensed clearly. And this is 100 milligrams total. So what you have here, I'm going to open it up and show you, are 2 pieces that look like this. Okay. Now this is made out of an oil, a Rick Simpson oil, which I mentioned a little bit ago. It's a very thick substance that is generally in an applicator, but they also infuse edibles with it, and it's really a great way to do things. So anyways, this here, 1 square is going to be 50 milligrams. So if you consider this a 50 milligram dosage, then if we're trying to get 25 milligrams, we're gonna have to cut that in half. If you wanted to take and cut that half in half even further, then you're looking at a beginner type of a dosage. So if I'm trying to treat a very chronic condition, insomnia, chronic pain, if I've just had surgery, something to that effect, maybe even something more serious, cancer, any very varying amount of conditions can use this. This is 100 milligram dosage, and maybe I need to eat some so I can speak clearly. But either way, when I medicate, I will usually take one of these guys here, and that seems to do me just fine. If I'm having some insomnia issues, then I'm gonna eat all of it. They're very delicious. Hardly taste the medicine, but they're extremely effective. 100 milligrams generally will cost about $10, $15 at the most. And you'll have to do some looking around to see what types of edible products you like to eat. Some people don't like to eat sugar, so you go more toward like a Rick Simpson oil. And if you want something like a hard candy, that's also an option. To kind of summarize what we talked about, the edible is a great option to go with, and there are all different types. A basic dosage starts out at maybe 15 milligrams. And to treat chronic conditions, we go up to 100 milligrams and over. The effectiveness of this will be 4 to 6 hours, as opposed to when you're consuming and smoking it. And in that way, it's about an hour and a half to 2 hours before you redose. And you can pick these up at any one of the local provisioning centers, the licensed provisioning centers, which is really nice because they have the milligram dosage and the testing results on there, so you know exactly how much medicine you're getting in each one of your doses, which is the most important thing. Just know what it is that you're taking. The other thing we wanted to just quickly talk about is overconsumption. And tips for relieving that? Well, first and foremost, when you start out with your edible products, you want to make sure that you're in a kind of like a safe, calm environment where you're familiar with it and you're around familiar people, so you're comfortable. The setting, and that's very important. Another thing that you want to do, let's say that you start to feel as if you're experiencing overconsumption, panicky or sweaty or something like that. The big thing there, stay hydrated. Sometimes people will put lemon in their water, and the zest from the lemon helps with, kind of like bringing you back, if you will. And then some people get some fresh air. Just stand up, walk outside, take a few breaths of fresh air, and then come back in and reposition. The important thing to remember is that you will not have any potential for death or anything like that. Sometimes people will take a large dose of CBD, 50 to 100 milligrams of CBD, to kind of reverse some of the effects of the edible. But you will definitely get a good night's sleep. That is one thing I can guarantee. So with that, I will close out the segment. This is Amanda Joslin with the Amanda Report, sponsored by Komorn Law and featured on Planet Green Trees. We'll see you next time, guys. Stay healthy.
Komorn is one of the top attorneys in Michigan that has experience and dedication in criminal defense law to provide clients with results. Komorn Law, the best damn criminal defense lawyers, period.
Hi, I'm attorney Michael Komorn of Komorn Law PLC, and you are watching Planet Green Trees.
Here's Michael Komorn with more Planet Green Trees.
Alrighty, we're back. Thanks for staying with us.
All those audience members are spaced 6 feet apart.
We are still involved with this episode 478. This must be the place. We're now joined by Jamie Lowell, who is attending his an event somewhere, undisclosed, with an organization. I probably shouldn't disclose it because I don't want to out him, but I think he calls himself the Michigan CIA. Secret meeting, and I won't say anything else beyond that, but please welcome our dear friend who's responsible for everything, Jamie Lowell.
Hello. Yeah, I got a few minutes. Low battery, but this is pretty cool up here. Robin's doing a great job with this event up here this year.
The old low battery trick.
How many people are there? Is it so? Because where's it at?
There's a huge tent at a vineyard, like a 200-foot long tent, and it's around this vineyard, and these tables that are very well spaced apart and everything, and speakers and food and music. It's been run pretty well.
Nice. Any highlights you want to tell us about?
Lath has just showed up. Lath Al-Sadi is playing here.
Right there.
Oh.
That's cool. So it's gonna be like live music. You're actually be at a live music place. Is that what you're saying?
Yep. Yusuf Rabi, and Andrew Brisbane. Well, Andrew Brisbane was on by Zoom. Yusuf Rabi's here.
Okay.
He addressed everybody.
Okay.
I had a tea party with Anquinette, hosted by Anquinette today.
Nice.
Thank you.
I wonder if it was as good
Q?
as our tea.
I don't know, because this tea is pretty darn good.
Yes, and Jamie, will you pause for a second because I, even though we have been bragging much about our spread that we have, there's another organically developing special thing that we've just learned upon. It's Steve Miller's lemon meringue pie tea.
Yes, it's excellent.
Describe it.
Compliments the
Describe it.
spread.
Delish, Darryl.
Delicious.
Tastes like a lemon meringue pie, and
So
you can taste the crust. Gerald Berry is also joining us. Gerald, of course, has two first names in his full name, as does his co-defendant in the case, but that person can remain nameless. Gerald, thank you for coming on the show. We don't want to get too crazy right now, but I'm wanting to get you on, and it's been a long road. I don't think we will have the time
Very long road.
to fully discuss your case, but it is good to see you, and you're looking healthy. In fact, I would even suggest you have some kind of filter on to make you look better than everybody else, as you have a certain glow and stuff about you.
got a skin tuck today.
Yeah, something, Darryl. You had like a day at the spa or something. They did a lot of some foliation on your skin with like a loofah or something. I don't know.
It's I don't know what the secret is. It's just staying outside in the sun all the time.
There you go.
Whoa,
There you go.
Daryl. Whoa.
Whoa, look at that.
Okay, it's a PG show, Darryl. Take it easy. Come on. All right.
In the sun.
It's PG, all right.
That's what life is about.
Come on, Darryl. I told him that you said you were going to behave yourself.
All right, listen.
I didn't know, but that
Jamie Lowe's.
I know.
Hold on.
Right. I forgot my G-string.
Shit is out of control.
Time out.
Pull it in. Pull it in.
Time out.
Pull it in.
Time out immediately.
Time out, Shiler.
Jamie Lowell, which we're lucky to have. He doesn't even show up anymore, but he called in. He's got a limited battery. Jamie, you still there, or did he drop off already?
He's showing still there, but on.
No, I'm still here.
Okay.
I'm walking up to the tent again.
Okay, don't pressure me with fucking hurrying up. I'm just trying to. All right, so what's going on here is I want to talk about this article we have. This is our next topic. Does the endocannabinoid deficiency play a role in common illnesses? I may talk about this and no one knows what I'm talking about. But we've talked about it a lot. Not that that's an authority of any kind, but you've been present in other Planet Green Tree shows where we've had physicians knowledgeable in this topic and have talked about it and actually have used it as a almost like a philosophy of treatment. But let's discuss what we're talking about here. For many suffering from chronic illnesses, cannabis is a godsend. From those dealing with the wrath of inflamed digestive systems to the ones combating global musculoskeletal pain, and the millions who report that agony in their heads is just the beginning of their symptoms. Cannabis can help these fighters with a load of physical woes. But why? What is this all about? Well, you haven't heard of this before, but the cannabinoids, the popular CBD and THC, interact with the body's endocannabinoid system, also ECS, and that our bodies produce natural endocannabinoids that work with the ECS receptors to maintain health in all other bodily systems. But do you know what happens when we don't produce enough of these endocannabinoids? Neither does science. Not really anyways, but there's a few doctors that have been researching it, and this article speaks to this. Ethan Russo, MD, Director of Research and Development of the International Cannabis and Cannabinoid Institute. He has theorized that clinical should be of many, including irritable bowel syndrome, fibromyalgia, and other resistant syndromes. The ECS symptom, which is how it's theoretically and how cannabis manages to treat them. So some of the quotes are, so the vast majority of physicians just have no background in the ECS. It's just not being taught, like as a philosophy. There may be different philosophical approaches to the treatment of medicine. I mean, although there's very little difference now, MDs, medical doctors, and doctors of osteopathy, DOs, had a little bit of a different, thought on the overall human systems and whatnot. But certainly, under no circumstances is the principles of looking to a person's endocannabinoid system as a method of treatment in modern science. Although they mentioned some things here that I think are worthwhile discussing for those that know someone or even want to think about this in terms of proactive healthcare, and I'm not a doctor, but these are from the reports and some of the studies. So Dr. Russo, 2016 paper, Clinical Endocannabinoid Deficiency. It reminds Jamie, Mr. Grimspoon, right? Marijuana reconsidered, clinical endocannabinoid deficiency reconsidered. Maybe it's a shout out to him. Revisited the issue after substantial evidence for the theory. Firstly, statistically significant differences in the endocannabinoid anandamide were recorded in this. I don't know if I want to go through like this, but let me see what the significant point here that I wanted to point out. It was. There's no magic pill ultimately, but here the methods in this study improve the overall ECS tone, which is a term used to describe the function of this little understood system. So, here are some tips gleaned from his wisdom. Number one is clean your gut. There's increasing evidence that the gut microbiome and the levels of bacteria within it, major regulators of the ECS. In other words, if you have this bacteria, is it bacteria? In your gut, it interacts with your endocannabinoid system and it
does a whole lot of
this stuff. Immune systems go wild. So, and this has been attributable, of course, to many of the foods that are most popular in eating that contain
Roundup, glyphosate,
and
wheat, high fructose corn syrup.
they're not organic. They're intended to preservatives. Thank you for that. Okay. So, people should avoid unnecessary antibiotics as these damage the natural microbiome balance in the gut. Also, try pro and prebiotics to get your biome in shape.
Yes.
Eat right. What do you know?
But that doesn't mean don't take antibiotics if you have an infection.
Of course. But, I would say this, Jim, I know from your purview, I know from many other conversations in the past with dealing with parents who were seeking help for their child and were interested in trying cannabis. If I'm not mistaken, one of the first methods of the treatment was trying to get the kids to juice as a with all the cannabinoids within the they're not decarboxylated. It's carboxylated, right? So it's not getting into the kids' high, but drinking the juice still contains all of those cannabinoids. And ingested in the gut is one of the ways to kind of flush out and/or was that one of the requirements?
It was popular with a lot of families of autistic children, and there's a lot of evidence that the juicing of the cannabis leaf led to a reduction of inflammation of the brain. But one thing that we did focus on heavily, especially with high-dose oil treatment, was making sure that the child's diet was not poor. And what you would find, especially with kids with cancer, is that if they were eating chicken nuggets and candy bars all day long, that they would never get better. That they had to change their diet, and that was usually the hardest part.
And I love sugar.
That and the parents seeing their children high; those were the two barriers always. But the diet was always a challenge.
Right, but it has nothing to do with cannabis. But to say that the cannabis, in order for it to work or have any kind of therapeutic effect, you need to change your diet. It's like saying, change your diet and stand on your head in a way, and maybe you could get better. You know what I'm saying? Like change your diet.
No, it is, and I mean, and candidly, people fail and people die. I mean, it just is what it is. But at the end of the day, we know anecdotally what we've observed to work, and that's what we recommend. And it's advice, as good as any. I mean, it's not a cure-all. It's an alternative. It's something else that you can try.
And here you go. So I'm not a doctor. I did get a fantastic night's sleep last night. My kids slept at their. But I just want to make this point: the bad diet, and the dealing with the digestion of these preservatives and non-natural substances in the gut is what they're talking about here.
Right.
And that it takes them so much. Again, not a doctor, but it takes them so much energy in the body dealing with it because it's not natural. They got to do something with it. So a lot of it becomes seepage into the gut is the theory, and it breaks down your immune system. I mean, just basically speaking, you get a cut on your arm, You're going to get a scab, it's going to heal, it's going to go away. That's how the body works, right? But if there's some other mechanism that's pulling that energy from the ability to heal the scab, then it's not going to happen. That's the metaphor that has been told on this particular issue. So the idea of immediately changing someone's diet and removing whatever it may be. You know, some people are into the wheat, no wheat diet, you know, the whatever it is.
Well, it's not necessarily an immediate, but there has to be progress.
It almost doesn't matter what it is, as long as it does not contain these culturally created chemicals
that's not
were
true.
never intended.
There's certain things like, well, yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, the refined sugar is by far, if there's one thing that you tell parents of sick children to eliminate from their diets, it's cut the refined sugar out. And, you know, the question is, oh, well, just a little. No, you're not hearing us. None. No refined sugar. And
some other sugar.
You can have fruit and other sorts of sugars, but for cancer especially, refined sugar is like rocket fuel.
Yeah.
It causes inflammation and just leads to bigger problems.
All of that. Right.
And, you know, at the end of the day, when you're talking about cannabis, I mean, there is a lot of studies there that cannabis oil impacts certain diseases in really positive ways.
But if you're feeding the disease with the continued
inflammatory,
pulling the healing mechanism of the immune system away from it and exhausting its energy on other things, so I don't know. I mean, good diet is a good. And what I meant by there's some things that are no-goes. I agree with you, but you know, I'm not even making the case for veganism. You know, but I'm saying it's more about the avoiding the. All the preserved foods, and those are all those things that are most available to us and easiest on the shelves for us to take. You know,
it's costly.
It's very costly.
It's an investment. I mean, I can tell you, my family's grocery bill is. I don't even want to share it because it's so hideous. I mean, it is tremendously high. It's
an injustice to realize that in order to get healthy food, we're forced to pay more. I mean, this is like
Or grow it yourself.
That's it.
No one is talking about this. You know, like they want
it's a
to,
huge
like healthcare, the whole context of whatever the healthcare system is going to be, should be premised on the idea that we're going to make healthier food available at a less cost price. But it's
you know what I found,
no one can even say that. This isn't even a method that doctors will. It's almost like off limits. You know, like
they won't even talk about it. I remember one of the reasons that we left the DMC Children's Hospital. I mean, there were a whole lot of reasons, but a big one was when we would be in there, they would say, oh, you should just let him have pizza. You should just let him have McDonald's. If that's what he wants, that's what he should get. And it's like, are you out of your mind? Every single time we do this, he gets sicker. Why would we continue to do that?
Because it's Western medicine. They don't understand food as fuel. They don't understand healing and wellness at all.
Certain doctors don't. I can tell you, we shifted our care to the University of Michigan at C.S. Mott Children's Hospital, and it was a completely different story. It's what is culturally adopted and instituted within that institution. We went there, and they were sharing stories before we decided to actually move Ryan's care there with us of families that were controlling his disease solely through diet, and that they were conducting studies on this. And it's like, well, gee, how refreshing that it's not just us saying, well, maybe this is important. So
everything medically should start
absolutely,
there
but more doctors should feel that way, because there's plenty out there that are like, no, it doesn't matter. You can eat whatever you want. We have a medication for that. And
that's what they're concerned with. You go into the doctor, they want to spend no more than 10 minutes with you, and then they want to, okay, this is what's bothering you. Okay, here, I'm going to write you a script for this. Here's your pill. Here, what pharmacy are you going to? I can dial it in for you. All right, anything else for you? See you later. Boom.
Gosh, it sounds like the court system. It sounds like the court system. You got a plea deal yet? All right, let's see, what is it? All right, anybody coerce you into this?
Because, you know, if I spend longer than 10 minutes with you, the insurance company's going to fuck me out of about $800 on this visit, so I got to get it done in 10 and on to the next patient, otherwise I'm fucked.
Capitalism. Gotta hurry up.
Chop, chop, buddy.
Yup. We ain't got time.
Well, we decided for my family, with the pandemic and the apparent collapse of the Western medical system, and at the same time we lost our insurance, I realized, like, This is great for us because my son has been incredibly sick. And it's not COVID, so nobody cares. They're just so obsessed with this stuff.
I tell your story.
And we couldn't get,
I tell your story all the
any help. And when I finally got help from Western medicine, they did not have any answers for us.
No,
they were like,
hardly
here's
ever
some
do.
pharmaceutical pills. So we're done. Like, we'll keep the pharmaceutical pills for asthma attacks and for emergencies. That's when Western medicine is incredibly helpful. And then we're going back to the medicine man. And I'm getting more Mulin for his lung issues.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to keep boiling the pine salves. We're going to use NAC. Like Dr. Bob says all the time, high levels of NAC. You know, and I'll introduce one thing at a time to see what's effective. Because I'm the healer at my house, bitches. I'm sick of these doctors. I'm sick of it.
Tell me about it. But, I mean, we're lucky.
Sorry, I'm sorry to swear.
We're lucky. I mean, we've got really great doctors now, and I'm grateful for it.
And you need it. Your son
Yeah.
is ill.
Yeah, very
You
ill.
need that kind of care.
Yep.
You know, and that, but I mean, traditionally, women, like the gateway to Earth is inside our bodies.
Yeah.
We're charged with the health and the well-being of the people, and they've taken all that from us, from the mothers. Like, you don't listen to the mothers. They're going to send CPS to your house if they don't like how you're administering
Oh, yeah.
medical care.
Yep,
to
they
him.
sure will.
What
They
the
sure
hell?
will. In a heartbeat.
In a heartbeat, you
Yeah.
know.
Yep.
And it's crazy making stuff for me on the outside world when people say that never happens. There's no case law for that. It's like,
It absolutely does.
and then I
Happens
remember
every
that they
day.
don't know about it because the media wouldn't cover it. Like the media doesn't cover these horrific
Well,
cases.
they think it's
that
justified
Michael has.
because they say, well, CPS wouldn't do that unless there was a reason.
Yeah, you know what the reason is?
Yeah.
$16,000
Yeah.
for a white baby that isn't retarded. That's what you're gonna get, and that's what they told Maria Green
Yeah.
when they took Bree. Saying really politically incorrect things, aren't I?
That's
Right.
sick.
$16,000.
That is
You get a
disgusting.
white child that is not in any way handicapped or needs care, you know, medical care. It's $16,000 from the state of Michigan. There's your-
16,000.
Well, you got to take care of it. You got to pay the kidnappers, and I don't know what they do exactly, but these are our kids, not yours.
Yeah.
Oh, it's disgusting.
It's horrible.
The problem with that whole
I hope
system
it should be getting
was
better.
the-
We passed Prop 1.
You
Oh, something's going-
Alan's,
These don't work.
Alan's trying to engage. Come on, so get him.
These
Put the
don't
earphone.
work.
Yeah, those don't work.
They're not plugged in.
They work.
They're not plugged in. That's what it is.
They
Oh.
work. Am
Here,
I just not hearing?
where did it plug in? No, plug that in.
Can you plug this in?
Is there a
Oh.
soft
I was just going to say the problem with
Oh, thank
what
you.
Charmie was talking about.
Who's
Wait,
this?
hold on.
Oh, it's Alan Peisner.
Yeah, hold on. She's getting plugged in.
I was just yelling without really.
Oh,
There, I
Just hold
got
on.
it. Yeah.
You got it? Okay, go, Alan. Sorry. We fixed it.
Go for Alan Peisner.
Thank you. The problem with what Charmie was talking about and $16,000 for a healthy white baby is that Bethany Child Christian Services, which was handling the matter, acting on behalf of CPS, they get a financial benefit putting a child into adoption. They don't get a financial benefit or payment for returning the child to the biological parents. So there's a motive to put the child up for
It's
adoption.
wrong. It's totally wrong.
And Alan, that institution in particular, after it had gotten the contract with the state of Michigan to service CPS instead of them doing it, later, after securing that contract, came back and said, we can only do this if we're able to utilize our deeply held religious beliefs in determining what is an appropriate household where a child should be.
Makes sense.
In other words, we're
Which
not going
means which means they can translate that to saying we're going to exclude gay couples.
Or people that are medical
People
marijuana patients and caregivers.
Correct.
Yep.
They don't go by. I mean, if you ask the question of what about state law, if he's a patient or a caregiver and you can't connect that to any reason for him not parenting, him or her parenting, you know, and that's the rules under state law, how can you make the recommendation that you do? They would say, we don't follow that.
No. We fall under a civil realm, and we follow
Yes.
federal law.
No.
And it's illegal federal.
No, they have
it's
policy.
not law.
They have
It's
policy.
not law.
A little
It's
policy.
not law or policy. It is
policy.
deeply held religious beliefs.
Oh.
This particular organization's
Really?
So like
manifesto, whatever you want to call it, Bethany Christian Services, one of their credos is, under no circumstances will marijuana ever be accepted, legal,
No
medical,
marijuana.
or other. Okay?
Yeah.
And by the
That
mere
could be bad.
religious belief in that, as
Bad.
the organization has put forth in their credo, they can utilize that to remove children, not return children, and as a reason to find another home amongst the flock
For
that
the
they've
children.
created for the children that those are no marijuana.
If they remove your children, good luck getting them back. Seriously.
Yeah, once they're gone, and yes, I'm reminded of, and I'll tell you something that I'm just talking about medical cannabis, and I know the topic of transgender cartoons, rewiring that acceptability, we could say, and I'm not saying good, bad, or otherwise, I could say with certainty that Beth Christian Services would not tolerate
You don't think that would
gay
be acceptable?
or transgender.
No.
So you watch the new Transformers?
Right.
wonder how
In fact, a reason to remove a child may be because you let your children watch a transgender transformer.
I
just
wonder
saying.
how that aligns with. Didn't they amend the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act to include LGBTQ? And that would mean that they were being denied their civil rights by an agency acting on the state's behalf, and that could be a problem.
Well, this is what it already exists right now. They were acting on the state's behalf, allowed to discriminate based upon their
No,
deeply.
I'm
Listen,
saying if it's still going on, people should be suing the fucking living shit out of the state of Michigan.
They can't. It's
Well,
just like
there was a
the
case with
people
the
that they take children from.
Yeah.
They can't protect themselves.
Someone's got to sue. Someone's got to sue them, and there's no qualified immunity here. This is a civil rights violation.
No.
Well, you have to.
There is Darryl.
Not when the state's violating your constitutional rights. There isn't.
All right.
They can't do that.
What were we talking about, by the way?
We still have to. It's
We
hard
started
to
with
see them.
endocannabinoid systems. We were where? Where did we just
And
finish
this
it
is
up?
what we've devolved into.
Where did we devolve into? Where were we?
Yelling about
State
taking our
and
kids.
All right, so but we do have. I
Christian
think Jamie
services.
jumped off for some reason. Alan did that.
He was with
Alan,
the CIA.
Alan, without actually mentioning the Max Lorenz case,
Yeah.
has
He
mentioned the
manipulated
Max
us.
Lorenz case,
He
and then made me
manipulated
get all
us.
fired up about wanting to show the disparity in dealing with that issue in those two groups, the LGBTQ and the cannabis community, as it relates to CPS, whereas one of those was
We should get included
appropriately
in the Elliott
represented.
Larson Civil Rights Act as a protected class.
I know, I would agree with that, but
What do you think?
I think that there was still. I'm telling you, I think that the state law that allows for the discrimination is allowed. I'm just saying to you, that's where the law stands right now. And if you show me a case otherwise, but I'm telling you, that's where things stand. They're allowed to do it.
It's unfortunate.
I mean, I disagree 100%, and that's we got bounced out of the state of Michigan on that argument.
People should.
In other words, the state of Michigan,
leave
state of
others
Michigan is
alone.
embracing as law deeply held religious beliefs,
Yep.
non-secular, the exact opposite, as a source to make decisions about
Whether a
children's
child
parents.
goes. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the state of affairs.
Not
now,
good. Not good at all.
the main point of whether you agree with the ultimate subject matter of removal or not is less of the debate here, and I would say the real focus is that you have a government agency that is not playing by the secular rules or relying on now. That is basic to me, and I understand some people may say we need more of that. Some people may. Gerald Berry may be someone like that, and I'm saying this in anticipation to letting him talk for a few minutes here. But I think that to me, it's harder for me. Like if the rules are separation of church and state, and we're going to play in that lane, that sandbox, and all of a sudden, in another sandbox, they're giving all the information of how we're going to play over here, and I don't, that's not part of the plan.
Wasn't the plan,
so
man.
that to me is the more.
Those types of inconsistencies lead to people rioting in the streets.
There you go. There you go. All right. So I had a joke I was going to try to say. I know here Darryl's on. Darryl, please feel free to talk until we mute you. Just kidding. We don't want to go into too much detail, but I did want to welcome you to the show and I'll let you talk about whatever conservative things you want to. And I would say that good quality conservative values, listen, good quality conservative values including education, the environment, health insurance, well, all that boring shit has been removed from the Republican platform. So go to it, Darryl.
That's all right. I'll just hear you out, Michael.
No,
or I'll wait for Schuyler.
No, we
or
want
Steve
you.
or someone else to comment.
No, we got you. We want your opinion now, Daryl. Come on.
Daryl Barry, what are your
Oh,
opinions
I've been waiting for
regarding the governor's executive orders
Good question,
since
Jim.
March?
What do you think of Her Majesty's orders?
That's a leading. That's a leading question.
Let me just put it this way. My stepdad passed away on late night, April 7th, of cancer. He had been home. You know, my mom and my sister and brother lived right next door, and they had been quarantined. My little sister hadn't been, so she couldn't go there. She lived on the next block. And the next morning, they went to tell her that my stepdad had died that night, and they found her dad this morning.
We're like not even out of the gate. Go ahead, keep going.
They found her dad in the house that morning, and the police came and just told my mom to go ahead and call the funeral home back and come and pick her up because they had just left 4 hours earlier with my stepdad. And they never did an autopsy or anything. Went straight to the funeral home, and she died of COVID, according to the death warrant. They never did an autopsy, and she was not sick. So if you're asking me what I think about it,
Yes, we are asking.
it's all about the voting, mail-in voting, because when Hillary didn't get elected, it's because a lot of people didn't show up to vote.
Yep. Here we go.
And so we want to send it out because then all these people will vote.
Well, you know,
we all know what it's
Darryl, you know, Michigan. I mean, just as a matter of total objective commentary, Michigan law allows anybody to do mail-in voting, right? You understand that?
Yeah. Hold on 1 second, though. My TV just kicked back on.
Okay.
Razor Ray.
Well, it's right here, fellas. Ladies and gentlemen. Look, Daryl, in this week's Epic Times, election security debate heats up over mail-in ballots.
I understand that if someone, everyone's had mail-in balloting because a lot of people, they have a house in Florida for the winter. So they aren't actually, Michigan is their, homestead. So therefore they're registered here. So it's every 4 years, every 2 or 4 years, but they're down there. So they do mail-in voting. Not for everyone, just at home, because
Darryl, that's not the law in Michigan. I love you, but you can say that it may be, and that may be the perception. Anyone can do a mail-in. You may think
for any reason.
that the rules should be for that.
It used to be.
But there's nothing preventing.
Not anymore.
And that may even, yes, that's the law.
You are correct,
those are the
Michael.
people, though, that typically do mail-in voting. Are them.
It doesn't matter
Everyone else
typically. The
usually goes
law.
to the ballot box.
Well, no, because since they changed the law, I often use absentee voting.
Steve lives in
do all
Florida.
the time.
Steve's living in Florida right now. Just because he's sitting next to me
I wish.
is just an optical illusion. And he mails in from Florida. He actually goes to Florida just to
took the
mail
money
in
and
his
ran.
Michigan ballot, okay?
But what the hell's going on?
Charmie's
my
alarm.
God.
No, I didn't do anything.
Okay. Keep going.
I don't
that's-
even, where was I?
All right, so the
I
mail-in
lost
voting,
myself. I got
Daryl,
lost
is a
within myself.
scandal of all kinds of conspiracies. A bad one to
I
start.
think he's right,
Okay,
though.
fine, Steve. Let's hear what you got to say. Okay.
Yeah,
Here we
I
go.
think most people do.
No, it has to do because there's
Most people.
There is much to do over this mail-in voting for this year.
There must be, because I think
and
Trump's trying to shut down the U.S. Postal Service, right? Isn't that what he's trying to do? Did he defund the Postal
It
Service?
is like a chess game being played out
Right.
before our
He's
eyes.
like it's like nobody should be allowed to do mail-in voting, even though it's legal. Oh, it's legal. Well, I'm going to shut down the mail system so it won't work.
down.
And that's essentially what's been going on. It's a chess match, or like a pig wrestling match in the mud.
WWF on steroids times a million.
Yes. And he's been in there before. He's going to win because he is the king.
He's going to win.
He spit on.
He's going to win big. You watch.
Ed McMahon. What's that guy's name?
So.
Not Ed McMahon. What's the guy's name?
I hope he wins.
There's a guy from the.
Ed McMahon.
Not Ed McMahon. It's something else. It's not Ed. Ed McMahon's the sidekick in Johnny Carson.
Jimmy Kimmel?
Who?
Kimmel? Jimmy Kimmel?
No. The WWF.
Vince McMahon.
Vince McMahon. Okay, that's all.
Ed McMahon. That was close.
There's an episode of the two of them going at it. They wrestle on the floor, if I'm not mistaken.
Are Ed and Vince
And Trump won.
Trump is gonna win.
So he is queued up for a WWF Mudfest with a pig, and he's already been there. He's got
He had to have his head shaved. Remember?
That's right.
Oh, that's right.
He shaved the head.
Shaved head.
That's right. Because when it comes right down to it,
that's where we're at.
That's where we're at.
No. The threat of Donald Trump having to shave his head had him rise to the occasion like a superhero Hulk creature. Like, you're not touching that head of hair.
Function splint.
Really serious about his hair. Trump.
As long as he is constantly being challenged about his own personal self-worth, he will always rise to the occasion.
Absolutely.
I'm convinced about that.
Yeah.
Regarding anyone else's care or concern,
it doesn't matter.
I'm not quite certain about it.
This is going to unfold like I cannot wait to watch it all unfold.
It's interesting. We've, Charmie, you haven't been here in a while. Let me explain a little bit what's happening. There's some different dynamics, and it's kind of played out.
different.
So,
very.
when the only issue is cannabis.
Yes.
Everyone's brought together.
Yeah.
Right.
Like everything else kind of, like, so they go, blah. No one's not agreeing that it can't be. Maybe there's variations of what, the ending of prohibition looks like, but, there's a immediate connecting
the
of
cannabis
sources.
issue's real easy these days.
Once that issue gets removed, you see that other issues are not so agreeable. And it's very difficult beyond that to be critical of any of the various issues and not be defined by the position you're taking in terms of a party. Okay, I mean, we're so divisive. There's no objective discussions about that, and that. If you say that, that means you're a Trumper, or if you say that means you're.
It's really
I've been
gross.
trying to fight in this space here of being critical of all things when I, to the best I can of all things. It doesn't mean I'm supporting one side or the other.
Right.
Like I would tell you flat out, Kamala Harris, bad choice. She had one chance to make a decision ethically as a lawyer, and there's only one choice when, and it's interesting because I only learned of this, I talked about this last week maybe. I only learned of this when I watched the debate between Joe Biden and the Democratic stage, and sharp as a nail, no gaffing this time after she beat up on him, Kamala Harris that is. Joe Biden said, "Oh, really, Kamala? Everyone should Google 1,000 criminal convictions overturned Kamala Harris."
Yeah,
sure
San
enough,
Francisco.
she was aware of the evidence that was being sent to the lab being used by analysts.
Yep. Crime lab scandal, all of
Huge
it.
scandal. Her advisors told her there's one thing to do. You got to have a Brady disclosure. You have to let all these people know and their lawyers know that this is exculpatory evidence. Let me tell you something. If you took that scenario and put it on a scale in front of every ethics professor in the world, they'd say there's only one choice. You have got to turn that over. And I'm of the opinion that if some prosecutor does that to me and they don't turn something over, they should be charged with a crime. Okay. So, in the moment, and understand, in the political world, there are no licenses and governance by a ethics committee. Like if you make an ethical mistake as a lawyer, not only are you, you'll lose your license is what I'm saying. Because the rules are there. You're held to a higher standard. You're supposed to know when that happens. So you can't say, I don't know. You're a prosecutor. There are rules about how the game is played. You don't get there unless you know those things or should know those things. There's a training process. There's rules to live by. And when you get to that decision to be made, there's only one decision, and that's turn it over. She did the other thing. And that's in a regulated system that's telling you, it's predisposed what you're supposed to do. Prosecutors, power, justice, not just winning. Fairness. That's your job to make sure there's fairness that goes on. Totally lost sight. And what would be the disincentive to play by the rules? Now, in politics, there's no license agencies. You don't lose your license if you tell a fib. Yeah. So what's governing her in this space? That when we know already that when having to make an ethical decision, now you could say, okay, they're just a bunch of cocaine idiots, 1,000 people doing drug whatever. No. That's why they're rioting in the streets. Okay? Now, here's the best part. Why do I know about this? Because fucking Joe Biden told me. And he picked her. So there you go.
Joe Biden, who is an architect of and a funder and a proponent of the drug war.
Yes.
I mean, come
well
on.
executed by the Clinton administration, I
So
might add.
I'm calling it like I'm seeing it. I'm calling it. There could not be a worse selection in the environment right now. I almost think you're trying to lose. You know, you're trying to lose. Like you may have some momentum, but you're going to do everything you can to potentially. Listen, So what I'm saying to you is this. That's something as an example that's very easy to criticize. It doesn't mean that I'm pro the other cheesehead at all. I find it very, very difficult.
You're not pro cheese.
Hold on. In this former sect of Planet Green Trees, I don't think we would have ever, that we would have ever even dared cross over into this kind of words that I'm saying, like, what's an issue? Like, no, there's much more.
It's just cannabis talk.
Yes, and who is going to take us? What party, if any, is much more continuity of where much of this.
Well,
is
now it's complicated.
It's become, and it is.
Well, now we know we can't ditch cannabis. We got to keep it around all the time.
Right, but what I've also learned is that a lot of the stories from that side, the ones we were hoping would be the changers for us and make the changes, have not done that. So it's easy to point that out and criticize it. It doesn't mean that it shouldn't be expected, because politics is politics. I don't want to, I can't romance it and want it to be something that it's not, right? It is. That was supposed to be the title of the show tonight. This is the new popular concept. It is what it is. You know what I mean?
It sure is.
Like, I don't know.
That's G-Pop's talk right there. You got to scratch yourself. You're in your underwear when you say stuff like that, in your chair, okay?
Well, I'm saying it. What does it matter? What does it matter that But I'm just saying, like, it's almost more ludicrous that you would expect certain things. But there was a certain, really like it's. I'll tell you what it is. As you said, the era of reform, criminal justice reform, is the leading issue. I think that's being Oakland County. Jessica Cooper gone. Karen McDonald ran on a platform of criminal justice reform. This is the way, okay? So, in fact, the Democratic Party did not embrace cannabis. What is that?
They're idiots.
Do they not?
They're idiots. What are they doing? They're eating themselves.
we know that
they
the
hate
Democratic
Trump so much they can't do anything.
They're
ineffective.
How can the National Democratic Attorney General's organization, the National Party Attorney Generals that advise the Democrats throughout the state that are running against Republicans, their platform that they advised was to be in favor of legalizing marijuana. Okay, now I know this because our Attorney General shared that with me, and that they sent this out saying, if you run on this platform, you will win. Okay, now the Democratic National.
Did it say anything about following through on the platform?
No.
Yeah, no, exactly.
No, and I agree with you 100. Listen, and I agree with you 100%. And what we've seen is the same kind of disingenuine approach to those most affected by the war on drugs and the crime bill, assumed that they will support these candidates. Do you see what know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, people know Joe Biden's involvement in this. They know that he championed it, and they know that he has never apologized. And some of the things he says are rather beyond offensive, to say the least.
A dick. Total
This is a good lead into my first news
It's
story.
missing every construct of social inequity. You know what I mean? It's missing every single interpretation of social inequity in the sense that we're just going to lock these people up because my mother may run into, look, this is how he talks about it. My mother may run into one of these savages, and he should be in jail.
He
Says stuff like that. Yes, he does.
Oh, that's
now,
good.
Yeah.
missing,
That'll help a lot.
and of course, then sign bills that continued to devastate these communities, not creating any other alternatives. It's very scary because I think there's a falsity in some aspects of the way. Just that, Democrats in favor of tax and regulate, but only because it's popular and because they get tax dollars. Nothing else in between. There's no grabbing of the social inequity problem. Very little, if any, of that. There's some states that have led the way. You hear some heroic governors. Chicago, I think, made a full. But Michigan's sitting here with thousands of people convicted of marijuana crimes, felonies and misdemeanors, and we had a administration promising, and the bills that are being discussed in the legislature are for
Flaccid.
At best, and that's all we got. But at the same time, things like
a penis, like a flaccid penis.
Impotent.
Yes. Like non-hard.
It isn't happening. It isn't happening.
In need of Viagra.
Yeah.
I like flaccid.
Needs a good stiffening.
It does.
So
Sad.
Flaccid.
It's very-
So flaccid.
Sorry,
but at
Michael,
the same
I'm
time, the bills that are being, I think it's still pending, they're trying to pass a law that says that government officials, spouses, should be able to have marijuana licenses.
Yeah.
This is on the priority list.
Makes sense.
On the Michigan ledge is doing this. So
That's going to get passed before. And then let me tell you something. You know when that's going to pass?
Lansing.
You know what's going to pass, Charmie? Watch me.
Right
Watch
before
me.
the expungement bills.
No, the expungement bill may pass in lame, but they're going to pass this stuff in lame duck. Whoever's leaving, they're going to get all the votes and be on to some other stuff, and right, for sure.
Yeah, and I don't know if this has changed, but we are 50th in transparency in all three branches of government. You have to work very hard to be last. We're just living in one of the most corrupt states in the
Nothing was
freaking
done to
country,
change.
Michael.
Nothing was done to change that. Do you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of things that could have been done.
It's accepted.
Can you FOIA?
I mean,
Can you FOIA the ledge right now?
Look at my government in Macomb County. I mean, our prosecutor is headed to, an untimely
federal prison. Shyler, what? Maybe not.
God, Jessica
Shyler.
Cooper is
Shyler, what about her? What about him? He's not going to prison, you don't think? You're defending him? You're going to put the Shyler defense down? Do your magic moonwalk?
Poor Shyler.
Eric Smith.
Dude, are
Eric
you a
Smith.
hippie now? I haven't seen you in forever. You look all hippied out. What happened?
No, Eric, we need.
Are you no longer a young Republican? What is going on, Shyler?
He's transforming.
Don't care.
He's using the experience.
I regret even chiming in.
No, we need to hear.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm just stunned by it. You're look at the hair. It's like flowing.
Freestyle. Shyler, go.
Loosened up so much.
Shyler, Eric Smith, go.
Go on.
No, I have not done that. But I mean, all I was going to suggest is he's being prosecuted by the Attorney General's office.
Oh, well, maybe Dana.
He's being prosecuted by people that we know.
Maybe Dana will no pros him.
I mean, you guys just got done discussing how filthy politics in Lansing is, and they belong to the same party.
Oh.
You are correct, sir.
Okay, that's all I to say.
What about
Well, I would say this, though. I don't know that at any point in time she initiated this investigation. She went after him. She, when they dumped that investigation in her lap that they didn't want to charge him federally yet and statewide.
He should have been charged federally.
He will be still, probably. Unless, let me tell you something. For whatever reason, he made the wrong...
What team is our Matthew Schneider on?
I don't even... Listen,
What team?
I'm going to tell you that the Eric Smith.
Whoa. I didn't know that was something we had to disclose on the ballot initiative or something, or whatever it's called.
Daryl likes that. It's good.
I missed this. I wish I understood it. I wish I understood what he was.
Anytime somebody says Democrat, Darryl busts out laughing.
Okay. All right.
All right. Do a Democrat
That's like his tickle. That's like his tickle.
Look at him. That's all it takes.
He's laughing. He's chuckling.
Democrat. God damn Democrat.
Chuckle, Democrat.
Dirty Dan.
Dirty Dan, the Democrat.
All right. So.
Can I tell you what I think of the executive orders? Can I tell you?
Yeah, Charmie, what do you think of it?
The executive orders from Her Majesty.
My dad was a cop, and I had this newspaper when we passed the Medical Marijuana Act, and so I would drive the state slinging my newspaper. And I would ask people, hey, how are the cops doing? And I didn't believe the first 5 or 10 women who told me a helicopter landed in their yard and the guys with the guns and masks got out and wanted to see your legal grow and stole all of your husband's tools from the garage and then took my cars and followed me in them. I didn't believe these stories, but then I got in my car and I drove the state for 1.5 years and I saw it with my own eyes, and then I tried to get the media to write about it. And I am very determined, I'm smart, I'm aggressive. I could not get Michigan media to cover this. So what I think about the governor's executive orders is this. If you cannot get in your car and drive over and see what the media says the government's doing, I don't believe it. And that's straight up from my experience.
Yeah, it's true.
The end.
When I first
Love
got,
Charmie.
When I first got involved with you guys and got to meet Charmie, and she would tell me all these stories, and I was like,
This girl's nuts.
There's no
She's
way
crazy.
this is going on. There's no way this
But
is
Michael
going on.
told you.
And then as I started, like, as the years went on and hanging out with you guys, and you start seeing it all, it's like, God damn. There's some fucked up shit
We got
going on in this system.
Steve, we got 6 or 7 of those still going on.
I know
in
it.
2020. They're calling them felonies. One of the cases is calling it, well, we got that dismissed, but calling it synthetic THC. Okay, I mean.
Still?
Yeah. They backtrack. Well, I can't even explain it.
Are they attorney general cases, or they're just
no,
circuit?
no, I have no more attorney general cases now. These are independent prosecutors. But I'll name the counties. We've got Allegan County, where there's a scandal going on right now with the current prosecutor who was caught texting and emailing with the prosecutor. Did you read about that?
I may have read an article about about the prosecutor in Allegan County.
Do share. Do
The
tell.
one we had a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah,
there
that's
was
right.
an article. We didn't. It was more of an opinion article.
It was an opinion.
No, but there was no. But what was going on was the judge in a case was critiquing and giving notes to the prosecutor about what was taking place in the trial. Like, you got to call another witness. She should have asked her this, stuff like that. Okay, they got caught, read.
Well, sometimes you need a couple tips.
Yeah.
Right? You got to make sure it's fair.
I mean,
Everybody should have to go sit in the courtroom.
I moved.
All citizens should have to go sit in the courtroom.
So I had an experience with this judge
In Allegan County,
likewise, where I've moved to recuse like 12 times, and
12 times.
I mean, so
Crazy.
I
Poor Michael, look at him. He's just like, how can this still be going on?
I'm remembering like the story about this judge. This is what had to happen. They'll never see this.
Goodness, still.
So we're fighting about whether or not she doesn't want to hear anything. She's like already predisposed, and Ellie was making a comment how this other case we were looking at, this judge is interrupting me and asking questions and rehabilitating the witness. It's like an extra prosecutor in there, and it's all predisposed, predecided essentially. So I am insistent that before my client takes the witness stand and testifies at a Section 4 and Section 8 hearing, that we get rulings on these other issues. It's like the Fourth Amendment we're fighting about this. There's a court in the state, and this is I don't know. I mean, it's like, started probably like 2018, but like since 2010, 11, 12, every time that issues come up they're my motions, which ones are we doing first and why? Well, it all makes sense to do these other traditional ones first before the defendant starts to testify and waives his rights. Never had a problem with it. If there's a constitutional reason for it, and clearly if we get rulings on these other issues, they wouldn't have to get on the stand and talk about anything. See what I'm saying? So we're having this debate and whatnot, and the judge refuses refuses. So I said, and I was not going to let it happen. So I said, listen, I may have to withdraw from the case because I had been advising my client that his constitutional rights would be honored in this courtroom. I may have been wrong because it seems like they're not. And he's relied on my advice, and I don't think I can represent him anymore if that's not what's happening. She said, you want to withdraw from the case? I'm saying, Judge, I don't want to withdraw from the case. I'm telling you that if it is going to continue, she said, well, you better go figure out right now. So I went in the hallway, and I came back, and she asked me again, do you want to withdraw? I brought it up. And I was thinking, I said, at the very least, Mr. Darryl should be able to consult another lawyer to see if my advice to him that he would receive the protection of his constitutional rights was bad advice. He should be able to consult another lawyer because what's taking place here is not that. And I may have to withdraw, but he should at least consult before he takes the stand. So she says, no, I'm removing you from the case. This is what we're going to do. This is what she goes. And I've never done this before. It sounded like I was abandoning Larry, but I'm like, I wasn't. It doesn't matter who it was, Larry or Jerry, whatever it is. But
there was a whole strategy behind it.
So what happens is this. She says, the judge issues an order that says, all right, I'm going to put a review date in 30 days. Mr. Client, you've got 30 days to get a new lawyer and show up, and we'll get on that day with your new lawyer. Then we'll start continuing in the middle of these, evidentiary hearings. After 2 years, what I'm saying? Like, Komorn's gone, and you got to get a new lawyer. 30 days, we can start again. Just start where we left off. This is her plan, okay? So, a couple days later, I get an order in the mail saying that I've been removed from the case. She enters an order in Komorn's room, and then my client tells me that, and telling me that and showing me an order that 30 days from now he's got to appear for a conference. Okay, he gets a letter from the court saying you have to be here in 14 days to continue with your evidentiary hearing. Okay, so guess who showed up with him? I did. She's like, what are you doing here? I'm like, you told him he could have a lawyer. He doesn't have one. I'm back now.
I'm back.
Okay, but do you understand what I'm doing? She tried to deprive him of his basic right to have counsel with some trick bag stuff.
What's wrong with her?
I've never dealt with this in my life. And you know what?
That's worse than the lady that said she was going to call your mother.
When I pressed her, do you understand? Once a judge removes you from a case, you can't get back in.
No.
But I was like, you are trying to screw him over. I'm the only thing he has. I'm not leaving.
It's like an anything goes courtroom.
But she's the one that was caught. I can't. They should. What do you do with people? What do you do with that? What part about not recognizing the basic unethical and immoral? You know what I mean? Like, why even take an oath? What is the side with the prosecutor? Okay, but not like that.
No.
That's for afterwards. She should have done this. She should have done that. You should teach her otherwise. Not in the middle of the case. You know what I mean? It's just.
So
that's a Teresa Brennan lawyer, or judge rather.
So don't you think, you're absolutely 100% correct that this is why people are in the streets, because of the broken criminal justice system. But my question to you right now is, what do you think the average American would do if they understood, like Darryl Berry believed in his government 100% before they did this to him, And what do you think the average person would do when they find out that there's no such thing? Like what you're describing, it's like like what you're describing is so outrageous, Mike, in the courtroom. These are people's lives. And you know all this, but what do you think?
I would say this, that unfortunately, the only people that are outraged by it are the people that are directly impacted by it, which are...
And the others don't believe it.
Well, they don't believe it, and it doesn't directly impact them. You see what I'm saying? Like, it directly impacts the minority communities and the socioeconomic,
Right.
communities.
Or if you've got a lot of, in Michigan with the shitty forfeiture laws, you got a lot of money they can take from you. They're going to hassle you for 4 years, like Darryl.
Unequivocal, but even though, Darryl's situation, I think, you can carve it as a little bit, its own, like, country, you know what I mean? But across the state, across the state, the way they get to 25 million in 2011 or 12 in forfeitures is from picking off everybody, every grow.
25 million that they reported.
Right.
They didn't have to write it down at that point still. They didn't have to write down what they took.
Right.
I didn't have to write it down.
Yeah, right. So whatever it was not with any without any using any discretion. You know what I mean? So what I'm saying is it wasn't like the comment was it wasn't seizing an airplane and a bunch of jewelry or some kind of whatever that associated drug dealer kind of overkill of
Lamborghinis,
material items. No, they're taking people's they're taking people's like baby carriages and their guitar collection and their baseball card collection.
Well, you probably used all
mobs.
of your proceeds from your drug business to buy all those things.
But
therefore, we can take them, right, Michael?
My point was that I think that
my mop.
I think look, if you've got the 1%,
We're in the process of doing some stuff.
if you've got the 1% of 1%ers or whatnot, they're not if they're gonna be involved with cannabis, they're buying it from someone. They're, what I mean? It's not like I'm saying just in the world of, and anyone that's involved with cannabis and in a certain socioeconomic class, they're asked. Like it's almost like that's where they're going to go. And if you have cannabis, that's our tool to rip you out of the car. That's our tool to search your vehicle and impound it and get money. And it's a way for us to get a search warrant and go to your house. I mean, these games have been, these games were real. This is the way they did. Pull over a caregiver. They get in your fucking house.
They drive to your house.
Because you're a caregiver.
Yes.
What about the part of the law that you can't use a card as probable cause? Did you ever read the law?
Yeah.
The whole thing? No, I'm just saying these are questions. These are questions that.
I've seen you ask cops that. Do you ever read the law? No. No, none of them did.
I'm just saying, and this is why they are rioting in the streets.
The whole thing?
See, this is why they're rioting in the
But
streets.
you know what, though, Michael? You have the key. Like, I think things are changing and very quickly. And I think that people who have the power to affect change in the criminal justice system care about the criminal justice system right now. And what you're talking about, the changes that need to happen in the courtroom and between the prosecutors and the judges and all this stuff, those are really the answers in a lot of ways to what the folks that are rioting in the streets are looking for as well. Like, in addition to please stop killing us on film. There's some very basic things there, but you've got to reach, just like we thought with marijuana reform, like it helps us reach into the criminal justice system and start to undo all the damage. But the level of dysfunction and just greed and idiocy and outright injustice that you encounter on a regular basis in the courtroom, there's got to be a way to undo all of that. Like, I know you have the answer in there somewhere in your brain. I don't know what it is.
I even wanted delineate between officers in general and drug task force officers.
Absolutely.
You see what I'm saying? Because I think there's a totally different, and I think that the lack of oversight, in that it's a different operation, covert, et cetera. And
it's because they don't face citizens protected by the Bill of Rights, but rather enemy combatants, because it's a real war. The drug war is real.
And with the ticket to bring in money as a forfeiture, it's culture, okay? But I think the answer is very simple. If these organizations have no accountability, how can you ever expect any kind of change?
Yes.
It can't happen. There's got to be some accountability. And when I mean there's no accountability, I mean the police have a monopoly on violence. They're the only people that can commit violence and legally do it. They have a monopoly on theft and robbery. The only people that can take other citizens' property, sell it at auction, keep it themselves for their enjoyment and betterment of their profession. Okay? This is a monopoly on things that are, they have a monopoly on lying, right? In their profession, the better they lie, the better they trick another citizen, the
Move
more.
up the ranks.
Okay? So
it's so true.
They are dominating in these areas of things that are completely against our cultural beliefs. And when held to a standard, what standard? Policing? That they encourage you to good cops lie, get a CI, fool somebody, and again, it's all in the name of the laws as they exist, but it creates a culture that has no accountability, and if there's no standard by which they have to follow, and they're not civilly liable, they get the benefit, not just the benefit of the doubt. Michigan law currently is that a search warrant signed by a judge or magistrate is presumptively valid. The only way you can undo it is if you can show that they were lying in the affidavit with an offer of proof that you can show without just saying they're lying. You know what I mean? And it has to be some judge's threshold of to get you a hearing, to get into the affidavit. Now, what about this? You may not know this, but you don't have to be a lawyer to be a magistrate. You do not have to be a lawyer to be a magistrate.
I want to be a magistrate.
There are.
It's good news,
There are
Charmie.
magistrates.
You can be.
Yes, you can.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Will you repeat what you said, that there's a law that a search warrant signed by a magistrate or a judge, there's a presumption?
Presumptively valid. In other
what
words,
does that mean?
It means this.
It's just a barrier to justice. That's a barrier to justice
It means
law?
this. It means this. That when a judge signs a search warrant, it is presumed that that the police filled out an affidavit. They signed it, swearing to tell the truth, and a judge read it. And within those four corners made a finding that probable cause that a crime had been committed within the location that they want to search exists, and they sign it or rubber stamp it.
It's opposite world. I've been in the courtroom with you a few times. Every time I do, you're like, hey, do you remember, like, you catch them lying about, and the judge doesn't do anything. And it's because of that presumption of...
It is, that's the statutes in Michigan. That's how it's treated in Michigan. Now,
it's opposite world.
But what's also happened when I say that there's no accountability, you can't sue. They can't sue.
From the minute they get up in the morning till they go to bed at night, they know they can do whatever they want.
Okay, so let me explain why. Because number one is qualified immunity for police officers. They have to, in order for them to be
all
found,
government agents, right?
Yes. In order for them to be found responsible for a 1983 action, they have to have. It has to be like more than reasonably known that they will have violated a constitutional right of somebody. You know what I mean? Like there's a case in California where they stole $250,000 out of a safe. The case was dismissed because it wasn't reasonably understood that stealing $250,000 would be a Fourth Amendment violation, and there was no precedent in the jurisdiction to support that. That's the kind of shenanigans that are taking place. So you have this qualified immunity, number one, so you can't sue them, and they're not responsible financially. The second thing is that when a Fourth Amendment violation takes place, as we read in this case, they said the use of that Stingray, even if it was a Fourth Amendment violation, the evidence that they seized was still admissible because of the inevitable discovery doctrine. There's all these like exceptions to so you violate the Fourth Amendment. However, inevitable discovery, if they do a inventory search of your vehicle, so they tow your car, they're not searching for evidence, they're doing an inventory search. Oh, what's this in the car? Right? And the reason they're doing the inventory search is to protect you, allegedly, so that, okay.
So helpful.
Here's the best one. Here's the best one. Here's the best one. The reason why you suppress evidence when there's a Fourth Amendment violation is to punish the officer in their bad deeds. So, you see what I'm saying? Like the idea is like, if the investigator that's seeking the search warrant does something nefarious, the punishment is against the police officer for their interaction with the search warrant. Once they get it to the judge or magistrate, you understand? Even if it was badly thought out, even if they're doing something bad, once that judge or magistrate gets it, the principle is that they are neutral, they are detached. And in that setting, once they sign it, independent of what they were doing, it cleanses it.
Michael, none of this is true.
This happens all the time. If
So
you know
what do
the-
you do with?
Listen,
How do you?
I can tell you. I can show you. And here's a better one. Here's a better one. The reasonable mistake of law.
None of it's true.
Reasonable mistake of law.
Yep, that's the I didn't mean it.
No,
law.
it means that I pulled you over because your car had a burnt-out taillight. The ordinance for burnt-out taillight is that no white light is illuminating at least 500 feet. Okay, this is the burnt-out taillight. Every single car has multiple taillights. The ordinances that are written are when you had 2 taillights, right? So if one's out, bam. You need 2 lights illuminating white light at 500 feet. Every car has multiple lights.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah, we
so
do.
they pull you over. One of those is burnt out. Let's say doesn't mean you don't have lights on each side illuminating 500 feet. They pull you over. Whatever, arrest you for some shit. Illegal stop. They pulled them over for something that wasn't a violation of law, but it's a reasonable mistake. Do you understand what I'm saying? Reasonable mistake. I didn't know the law.
I didn't mean it.
And I pulled you over. Oops. Now I'm going to arrest you. Forget why I pulled. I mean, you understand?
Don't worry about it because it was worth it. Because
Yeah,
you,
it's
you
fine.
needed to go to jail because there was
Yeah.
something wrong anyway.
Everything worked out in the end, even though I didn't mean it.
You're right, but it was
Michigan has a
justified at the end.
13% arrest rate for rape.
Yep.
Rape.
Mm-hmm.
And when they pull you over and you owe them $40 to the Secretary of State, that's right away put into they can run your plate and see that, but they don't see if you're a rapist because they don't enter it into the database. Period.
You know, disturbingly, the Michigan statistics on marijuana arrests, I think there was like 400 to 500 in the year 2019. I think there was $4,500 in forfeiture reported. The 2020 report for the year 2019. Just so you know, 400
For possession? Those were
for
arrests for possession?
marijuana crimes, and $4,500 I think was the amount of. So I would say this for the John Sinclair case, we keep getting bounced because there's no penalties. I mean, there's no standing because no one's harmed. Well,
For the John Sinclair case?
yeah. And I also would mention I have 6 marijuana cases. So how is harm not taking place? You see what I'm saying?
Felony marijuana cases.
Felony marijuana cases.
Were they importing tons of cannabis from out of state?
No.
Oh, were they operating a retail facility illegally?
I should mention, you know that case I told you about, that terrible judge, the one that was texting or whatever? We went to the court.
Allegan?
She, of course, denied our Section 4 and Section 8 all the way around. The court originally got the appeal, and without even hearing all our arguments, reversed and remanded that we get our Section 8. She totally missed the boat. What do you know? And then, without all our arguments, granted our Section 4 and dismissed 2 of the counts. So, if I was to say the judge was wrong on every single level as a human being about being able to interpret the law neutrally, she missed the boat. The Court of Appeals told her so. Still got to go back there and try the one count that remains. But
What is that saying up there?
No.
Straight area narcotics
That's,
enforcement in Allegan. Who is it?
we met.
Oh,
Yeah.
Western.
Mm-hmm.
That's the same folks.
Right.
Yeah.
They hit like a bunch of cases that day, and they, you know, I can't even. It's
You just got to ditch the judge, honey. You just got to get rid of that judge.
well, it got late fast. It's 10:30. We passed.
Got late fast.
But we got some
We had a good time.
chatting, didn't we?
Holy cow, the time flies when you're having fun.
Do we have? All right. So listen, I don't know. That was a good. I mean, just some. You know, and I've
That's a
got
lot of
I've got a lot.
information.
Yeah, but I've got this antagonism towards the treatment of this by the state right now. I'm kind of inflamed that. Yeah, it's you know what I mean.
Yes.
The
Feel like
BS
we've been played.
They promised that they got voted in upon,
Yes.
and they're not following through.
No.
And if, you know, he's just in him having 5 active
6
cases.
cases. Who are these people? How could they have
So it's
this?
Allegan. How many? Where are the other counties? Allegan County.
Lapeer, I've got 2.
Lapeer.
Lapeer, I've got 2. too.
In Lapeer?
In Lapeer. Here's one. Here's one
I
for
thought
you.
they were priding themselves on, Felderspeer was like, oh, we're not going to do forfeiture. Like, weren't they trying to convince us that they're reformed?
Well, yeah, they could self-reform.
I see.
They did an internal investigation about Gary Parks. This is a problem. You know what I'm saying?
They did an internal investigation?
Yeah.
What did they...
When they posted videotape of him admitting that he's walking around with cannabis in his briefcase and didn't know it was there, but smelled it. I mean, it's insane. That's one. Here's one. So we got Lapeer. What else did I say?
Lapeer, Allegan.
Allegan.
That's it
We've
so
got
far.
Isabella County, which is
Yeah. Fishers.
We have Washtenaw County. Washtenaw County.
We should shame those folks in Washtenaw County. Like, you should do media on the Washtenaw County bit. Especially, go to talk to Ellie.
We are preparing something for Ellie.
Go talk to Ellie Savitt.
We're going to talk to Ellie. But it's really
Thank
unfortunate.
God, he's the prosecutor
Wanna
there. Oh, my God.
Discuss that. As we said, we'll talk about. Where's the other one? So the other one is.
Not Livingston.
Where's
Daryl
Steve-
Berry's done.
Yes, I consider Daryl's case done. Steve, what's the other ones? How many did we get to? 4 or 5?
Washtenaw 2.
Oh yeah, St. Clair County. St. Clair County. All the yahoos from back when and then. You know.
What? Who
all
was
the-
it? Which-
Oh, I do not know. Maxie, Spatafor. It's up Mans. Oh yeah. Well, it's from 2013.
Well, this is their town, son.
And the game that they play is we get you as the caregiver.
It is.
Did we talk about that? Would the caregiver get to your house? Okay. Or was that on break? I don't know what it was. Like the stuff, the game of like pulling people over on a traffic stop, and then bam, they're in your house.
Bam.
All right.
That's not a welcome guest.
We may be
Usually
duplicating.
Not a welcome guest.
All right. Final thoughts going around the room. I love talking to Charmie. I missed you so much. Obviously,
I'm so glad to see you. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you.
You know, I got the same.
Sorry to yell
I got the
and
same
swear
painful
and
stories and stuff. Did you get to say enough? Did you want
It's
to talk?
idiotic that you're still going through this.
I can't. I got other stuff
Burn
to do.
shit
I got
down,
kids
Michael.
and stuff.
Burn it all down.
I got kids I got to take care of. Not.
Time's going by so quick. They won't be kids anymore, though.
No.
Going to be grandkids to be worried about, and then that ain't going to be your worry.
I hear you.
His kids are dinky still.
Yeah, but it's going by quick.
It's going fast.
They're little.
6th grade, one of them. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Final thoughts?
6th, third, and
Final thoughts.
Alan. Alan's
Final
here.
thoughts.
Alan, let's go. What do you got? Scuba
I just
Alan.
want to remind everybody that next week we have Michigan Supreme Court Justice Bridget McCormick on the show.
Fancy.
And we also going to have the MRA director, Andrew Brisboe, on the show next week.
All right, Andrew.
Tune in next week.
Alan, all over it.
Alan,
Big
way
show
to go.
next
week.
Big
Sweet.
score there.
AP.
Well, we'll have to come back some other time, play some music, we'll talk a little
Sure.
bit about what we got going on in this project with Charmie and I.
Memoir action.
Working on a book.
I heard. It's very exciting.
Very fun.
Can we get a song from Razor Ray next time?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep, we'll start out with that.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's a
Awesome.
great idea.
Thanks for asking.
Here's my final thoughts. I was really urgently working during Prop 1 to make sure that the 12-plant home grow provision was included. I really supported it very heavily because I knew that that would be the final way that we would actually stop the raids, stop the freaking raids. If everybody's growing pot, they can't investigate us and come and get us and take our kids anymore. But can I just tell you that when I drive through any neighborhood in this state right now, they are all growing pot in their yards. They're big bushes. You see them from the road. They're everywhere. It's so, I would never have imagined that this would happen. It's growing everywhere. Thank you, Michigan.
You know what? Well.
Everywhere. Don't
okay,
you see it?
But
Like
but,
bushes.
Stuck in the dirty city.
It's great.
Big bush.
But even with all that said, and even if it's in violation of the, cause it's not enclosed and locked, you can see it everywhere.
It's everywhere,
I
though.
understand. It could be hemp. Could be hemp.
Oh.
Could be.
Those teenagers from down the road that steal it are going to be disappointed then.
Well,
Yeah, that's a big bummer.
I would say
That's a
that
big
even
bummer.
with the things that I'm
They get
talking
all
about, Charmie, I
excited.
do think that the calls that we would get of the cesspool of the raids and that they've stopped. There's a few that still go on. It seems as if they focus their attention on activities, the state that is activities related to retail.
Yeah.
Where there's no license. Where someone's got like a club you're not licensed to sell marijuana, and people are coming in. There's been a couple raids in Genesee County. We know of a case up in the UP, forfeited a lot of money.
So
that
people
stuff's not
just go
supposed
in
to
clubs
happen.
and then lighting up.
They're still raiding. They're still kicking doors in. They're still kicking doors in because it remains a right. The idea that
We're still saying that it's still federally scheduled.
and state-wise, I don't think that. See, what's important that if it's Schedule 2, it doesn't have the same. It's not illegal per se. You see what I'm saying? It's Schedule 1 classification means there's no
Prohibited.
acceptable reason why anybody would have it. I always use this analogy, and it's offensive, but as if it was kiddie porn. Like unequivocally, if somebody exactly. What's what I'm saying? Kiddie porn is contraband per se. You're not allowed to have it. If someone has it, you're going in and they're getting
They're
it.
supposed to kick the door down
Yes.
and get you and your kitty porn.
That's the appropriate usage of law enforcement.
Absolutely.
So the point is, as it remains Schedule 1, it is treated as this dangerous, illegal, substance by its very nature has no reason to be in anyone. I mean, this is Schedule 1.
It's dangerous, Michael.
Very dangerous.
It's dangerous. You don't seem to understand this.
Cannabis is dangerous.
It is. Reefer madness.
It's dangerous.
Right,
yeah. We gotta go.
Devil's lettuce.
The devil's lettuce.
Just
wrap it up.
Wrapping it up.
Satan's surge.
Sweet.
Satan's shutting her down.
Shine down.
All right,
Bye,
thanks for listening.
Daryl. You look good.
Pieces
Daryl,
out. Dude.
did you have fun? Daryl, did you have fun?
The building, Jim.
Daryl, I want to know what Phil. Did you have fun?
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
You look.
I behaved, didn't I?
You behaved. You look great. I want to know what filter you're using.
Awesome
That's kind
tan.
of a.
That's an awesome tan,
You got
bro.
some kind of special filter you're going with.
He's
Lighting
going
or
Hawaiian
makeup. You got
gold
a makeup
and
artist
Still
there.
welted up bad, but
We're done. Sign it
off.
Can't tell. You heal like a Viking. It looks like or something. I don't know.
Nice filter.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today, michiganmedicalmarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today, michiganmedicalmarijuana.org.
Hello and welcome to Planet Green Trees. I am Earl, the host of Cannabis Therapy Podcast. And I'm here to give some information about cannabis so that we can have a well-balanced understanding of cannabis. And today we're going to talk about how to tell the sex of a cannabis plant. Yes, by the end of this episode, you should be able to identify if a plant is male and female, and why does it even matter, right? Cool. How to tell the sex of a cannabis plant. Now, I am live from Komorn's office. If you hear Komorn's voice, it is because he is on a rant with a client, and that is okay. But we're going to push through this. Now, how to tell the sex of a cannabis plant. Tommy, you can throw that first image up there. Thank you very much. Genetics. A cannabis plant, believe it or not, female plants and male plants have different genetics and different chromosomes. Males have an XY chromosome and females have an XX chromosome. Now, from naked eye, you can't really tell that, but just look eternally and understand there is a genetic difference between male and female plants. Now, you can really tell the difference between the plants by their genitals. Believe it or not, plants have genitals. And for males, it's more pistils, and for females, it's more stamen. And you can tell the difference. There's an image up there right now. You can see the pistils look a little different than what the female stamen looks like. And almost those pistils will eventually give you a sign as to how they are going to be a male. And I'm going to show you that picture pretty soon. But usually, you can't really tell the difference between a male or female until about at least 2 to 4 weeks into that plant's growth cycle. And sometimes you won't even tell the plant difference between male and female until about 2 weeks into that.